Good evening and welcome to the March 1st meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'll start first by introducing the board. To my right is Jerry Patamas. He is an associate member of the board. My name is Terrence Hurry. I am the vice chairman of the board, and tonight, because of the chairman's absence, I will be the acting chairman. To my left, we have Kimberly Beelan, who is the clerk of the board, followed by Ed Van Kuren, who is a full voting member, Paul Murphy, who is also a full voting member of the board, and Bob Dugan, who is an associate member of the board. Tonight we also have with us Sri Boudreau, who is the zoning administrator, and Megan Petiti, I'm going to get that name right one of these nights, Megan, who is our recording secretary. All hearings are advertised and held in accordance with the open meeting law. All application files are open to the public for review prior to and after the hearing. I'll also ask for everyone to please silence their cell phones before we start tonight. Any other electronic devices that you may have, please silence those as well. We ask that you listen to the applicants, the witnesses, and to the board. Please also refrain from private conversation in the hearing room or outside of the hearing room. We also ask that you refrain from making any derogatory statements, and please exit the hearing room quietly. All hearings are recorded, and tonight we're also being televised to ensure a true and accurate record. We'll have the clerk read an application into the record, and that will follow by the applicant with his or her appointed agent briefly summarizing the application and stating why relief should be granted in accordance with specific sections of the zoning bylaw. The clerk reads all the referrals from the pertinent town departments, and the clerk also provides any information on correspondences received. The zoning administrator will provide any updates and alert the board to any issues to be considered, and then the board will ask questions of the applicant. The public will then be asked for any comments. Individuals are recognized by me, the chair, and I'll ask you to step forward to the lectern, provide your name and address for the record. And all statements or questions concerning any project should be directed to the board, and then the applicant will have a chance to clarify any issues that you may have. At the close of the hearing, the board will thoroughly discuss the application. Based on testimony in the board's discussion, the applicant may wish to modify the request or withdraw. Following board discussion, there are several options available to the board, including continuation. That's in the event that we don't have quite enough information to make a decision. We could also vote to close the hearing if we're satisfied with that all relevant testimony has been received. Once a hearing is closed, no new testimony will be allowed. We could also decide to take action after a full discussion of the application. We could make findings and vote to approve or deny an application with conditions. It takes an affirmative vote of 4 members to approve a motion for a special permit, variance, or appeal. We could also decide to take the matter under advisement, or we could also request a draft motion from the zoning administrator. And tonight we have 2 continuations at 6 p.m., followed by 4 new hearings, and we also have items on our open meeting agenda. So Kim, if you're ready.
Oh, well, I just think that we've received some materials. This is the Kelly application. It's already been open and was continued to tonight at 6 for further hearings. We've received some further comments, submissions from the town, and submissions of, this would be called a landscape plan with some proposed plantings.
Okay.
Since last hearing.
Thank you, Kim. And where we did leave off last time, we did ask the applicant to provide us with some information regarding a few outstanding items that we had concerns about. So if the applicant would like to come up and update us on what she's come up with so far.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Maureen Kelly, and I'm here again asking for a special permit for commercial accommodation at 25 Harbor Avenue. There were 4 things that the board requested, and we have met all of those. I have submitted the information to the board.
Excuse me, hard to hear.
One was lighting.
If you don't mind speaking up a little bit, and just so everyone knows, the microphones here are for the TV audience at home. They don't provide amplification to this room.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We have some under that, this little thing you put over your ear. It's just an amplifier, if you want to use that. Go ahead.
Maureen, just speak up. Okay, thank you.
One request was regarding the lighting, which we have addressed. We have changed out the bulbs from 60 to 40 watt, and we have had one of the motion detectors repaired. And they all are shining down, and there will be no lighting that will shine onto anyone's adjacent properties. The sign, you wanted us to address the sign. We have decided to affix the sign to the building, so there will be no freestanding sign. There was a discussion about stormwater, and we have met with the landscape architect after talking with Warwick Associates Engineering. They referred us to the landscape architect, which on that plan there that you have in front of you, there is 2 French drains on the back building, and there is a dry well off to the left of the driveway. The front building already has French drains and has gutters. The back building is still waiting on gutters. I believe that's...
Do you want to review briefly the landscape plan? There was one submitted.
Yes, we did submit a landscape, that was it, the landscaping, and we have proposed approximately 20 Leland cypress to go all around the left-hand side of the property and down the back. There is existing trees to the left of the driveway, and those Leland cypress get pretty big, so that's why we've chosen those.
Okay. If we could turn it to board questions. Let's see, Bob, would you like to start?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Paul, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
No question.
Kim?
Yeah, I just have a couple, and I apologize if they were addressed last time, just trying to refresh. What was the number of bedrooms on the site previously?
Previously 4,
Yeah, 4.
and proposed 6.
And what's the longest period for stay occupancy are you proposing? Are you proposing any limit on that, outside limit?
We've never, well, it is a nightly sort of thing that I'm offering out there. Anybody could stay the whole summer if they wanted to pay the nightly rate.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
But it would be on a nightly basis, no tenancies or anything?
correct.
Okay. Okay. And then would deliveries be made directly to that property?
If in fact they needed to be, you mean as far as linens?
Yes.
Or, well, we'll do all of the linens on site and so forth.
Okay. Would like washer, dryer be on site to accommodate that? Okay. And then I think I read in something that was submitted that you're proposing quiet hours as well?
Correct, from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m.
Okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jerry, any questions?
Just going down over this latest letter we received. I think you addressed most of them, just so you could respond to the board as well as, well, to the board and they can listen. Did you resolve the issue of whether you could be there, or you're going to apply for a state permit for bed and breakfast? The question had come up whether, as a B&B, the owner needed to be on-site, and if it was a matter of state law or...
So I've been working with Ms. Monahan, and she will be able to address that legally.
Hi, for the record, I'm Laura Moynihan, representing Maureen Kelly. So, in Falmouth, bed and breakfasts are licensed as so-called lodging houses. That's the license that is applied for through the Board of Selectmen. It's a state license under Chapter 140, Section 23. So we do not have a definition of bed and breakfast in the local zoning bylaw. There is no requirement under the Falmouth zoning bylaw or Chapter 140, Section 23, lodging house for owner occupancy of a lodging house. There is reference in Mass General Laws, Chapter 64G, Section 1, which I believe is the section that's been quoted or brought to your attention, which defines, has different definitions, and I'll give you a copy for the record, but it has a definition of a bed and breakfast establishment, a bed and breakfast home, a lodging house, a motel, a hotel. Now, Section 64G is a taxation section. So those definitions are raised in that section for the purposes of defining which of those types of establishments have to pay excise tax, room tax, and sales tax on meals. So in the section itself, which I'll give you, it says, as used in this chapter, the following words shall, unless the context requires otherwise, have the following meanings. So as used in this chapter, the chapter is entitled Chapter 64G, Room Occupancy Excise. And then it goes on to have various exemptions for a bed and breakfast home, which is defined as a bed and breakfast owner occupied with 3 or less rooms, which is exempt from sales and excise tax, and a bed and breakfast establishment, which is owner occupied having more than 3 rooms, which is not exempt. But it doesn't anywhere say that a lodging house has a different meaning than what we understand it to mean under the Falmouth zoning bylaw, which has a specific definition of lodging house, which is, I believe, 5 or more rooms. And also commercial accommodations, which is defined in the Falmouth zoning bylaw as including a lodging house. So there is no reference to bed and breakfast. So with all of that, I would submit to you that there is no, first of all, requirement for owner occupancy under Mass General Laws for either a bed and breakfast as defined under the taxation section or a lodging house. It's there for the purposes of defining when somebody is exempt from room tax. If it's owner occupied and it's 3 or less units, it's exempt. So that's really where that definition comes into play. I don't think it's relevant here at all. I don't think there is any requirement for owner occupancy under the state law or the zoning bylaw. Certainly I'm not aware of any requirement that this zoning board has imposed or the Board of Selectmen when they're issuing lodging licenses, because I don't see where they would have the authority under the zoning bylaw or state law to say it has to be owner occupied. It doesn't fit the definition of lodging licenses. So I'll give you the printout from the DOR that talks about the tax exemption as well as the definition under the taxation section, just so you have that for the record.
Thank you.
Jerry, you all set?
A couple of others, just to clarify. There will be no cooking facilities in the garage, right? And I guess the abutters had asked about adding cooking facilities in the main house. There's a kitchen there. I'm not sure if you intend to expand that or...
There's just the one.
To one kitchen?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as cooking facilities go, I mean, that's a very broad term. So obviously, Ms. Kelly might want to put a coffee or a teapot in a room, maybe even a small microwave, but it's not. So I think that would have to be clarified if there's a condition to that effect, that those types of things would be exempted. The idea being that there isn't a kitchen facility in there to actually cook meals.
But are you saying in the bedrooms there could be a hot plate or a refrigerator?
Not a hot plate or a refrigerator, but certainly a coffee pot or a coffee facility where somebody could make a cup of coffee whenever they wanted to do that.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify it since a number of people had asked that question. No further questions, thank you.
Being that I've been in the business for a very long time, to me, a definition of cooking is someone who has a stove or a hot plate or something like that. But a refrigerator comes pretty standard now in just about every room, so I wouldn't consider that or put that under cooking facilities.
I understand.
Okay.
Kim, you had a follow-up question?
Yes, just for Attorney Moynihan. So I'll start, and I said at the last hearing, I think this notion of licensing and what's required under the state regulations is completely out of our purview as the zoning board. But I just wanted to clarify. So the Board of Selectmen issues a lodging house license,
Correct.
not an innkeeper license?
Correct.
Okay. All right, that was all.
Innkeeper has a different definition.
And I believe it requires owner occupancy
I don't
at
think
the
so.
state level.
The difference with an innkeeper
Mhm.
is that there are maybe restaurant facilities. It's an
Mm-hmm.
old definition, but a place for service of food
Yeah.
in a restaurant-type establishment. So I think that's what differentiates the lodging license versus the innkeeper's license.
Okay.
It's not owner occupancy.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Now, Ms. Kelly, I did have a question for you. Like a point of clarification, I was reviewing the file this week, and I noticed on the existing dwelling, second floor plans, bedroom number 3, it appears that there's a 5-foot cased opening proposed, and I'm sure you would rather have a door there for privacy. If you could.
It is built so that if we needed to add a door, we could in fact add the door with very little work. However, it is still going to be sleeping. Most people are asking for sleeping, like if 2 couples go on vacation and they each want a side. So it's 1 room, but it's 2 rooms because both sides sleep, and I wanted to make sure that I was covered. So that's why I've asked for 6.
Okay,
Is that
so
what-
on the second floor?
It is
I'm
currently open.
Just trying to understand, so there was bedroom number 3, and then another room that you labeled
Right.
a separate bedroom, but they're considered one?
It's 1, but it can be 2, because maybe 2 couples would want it. We get a
Okay.
lot of requests for that, so I wanted to make
Sure.
sure that I was covered.
Thank you.
I had
You're
a follow-up question. You
Sure.
had- No, and I
Yes.
guess this was raised by the residents, and we could discuss it. Will the parking here be only for this bed and breakfast as opposed to overflow parking or used as a general parking lot further?
No, only for the guests and the staff. And Timothy wants the garage.
Thank you.
Any other board questions? Okay. We do have some time restraints because we do have hearings coming up at 6:30. I do want to entertain some public comment, so we can limit that to 10 minutes. And usually, we afford members of the public 2 minutes of speaking time, questions, concerns, anything like that. So we'll go ahead and get that in now. So, yes, members of the public, you can please come up, ask questions, concerns through the chair.
Hi, my name is Linda Connors. I live next door at 33 Harbor Ave. You did a good job going over some of our list. I just had 2 more questions. I have a question on number 8. I live next door, and there's an unregistered vehicle of theirs. It's been there, it hasn't been registered in 3 years. That's always parked. There's a lot of heavy equipment. There's been a dumpster. I know she said the dumpster will be gone when this is finished, but I want to make sure that they can kind of keep the yard a little nice. It's not very pleasant to look at with all this equipment and trailers out there all the time. And these have been there for 3 years, so it's not just when they have workers here. My other concern is, I'm concerned, I heard something when Marge was at the zoning board. She said it said something in the records that she might do this year round. They live in Florida in the winter, and I'm concerned that they're going to be renting this as a multifamily thing when they're not there. If it's a bed and breakfast, there should be somebody there watching over it, and shouldn't be just rented all year long. Thank
For
you.
clarification, the staff has never been asked about year-round use. We didn't tell anybody year-round use. That's between the applicant and the board, just for clarification. We wouldn't assume something like that.
Thank you, Sari.
And I was just reviewing the minutes. I asked will it be open year-round? And she replied, probably not, but that was the discussion in terms of year-round use. Yeah.
No, of course. You have the minutes.
We have hired someone to live on property for this year as a trial to see how things are going. And we would like permission to rent year-round because if she's going to be there, then we might as well be operational.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yes, sir.
Good evening, my name is David Lyons, and I live at 4 Montgomery Court in Falmouth Heights. I'm not known for being brief, I'm going to really try hard. I have 3 parts and a point. I think they're all important. In the 1950s, Falmouth Heights had a wonderful beach. It had a raft, had Gov. Fuller's tennis courts. I don't know if you ever knew Gov. Fuller, he was quite a guy. Had a baseball team, Little League baseball team. And back then, they did it differently. Each part of each town had a team. The Heights team was the White Sox, Woods Hole was the Red Sox, the town team was the Tigers, the T-ticket was the Cubs, and you went and visited them, and they came to you. The casino had a movie theater. It was a fabulous place. Then we go to the 70s, and we got the casino changed to a restaurant and a nightclub, and Brothers Four changed to a nightclub, and the Heights changed. There were actual, I remember, there were, people would come down in the summertime from the city, and actually on Falmouth Heights Beach there were gang fights in the 70s. Not every day, but it happened. The whole place
Mr. Lyons,
changed a little bit.
I hate to interrupt,
Okay.
and I don't want to cut you short, but you do only have 2 minutes.
Okay,
You have about 30
I'll go
seconds
right
left.
there, okay?
So if you want to make a comment directly toward the
I do.
application.
This all has to do with the application, okay? And now we have today. Today, it's kind of gone back. It's a family place. And what's happening today is all over the Heights, small cottages that have been there for years are torn down and big houses are put on there. And I'll actually congratulate you guys because so far of all, and it's a lot of reconstruction in the Heights that's happened. I find none of that offensive or inappropriate, okay? We're not communists. You can own property, you can sell property, you can change it, and it's changed. My point is that people come into the area, new people come into the area, and that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. When someone has been there a long, long time, throughout that all, knows the history of the Heights, has been very responsible for their action in the Heights, I think you'd need to give that due consideration if they want to get a variance or do something. I'm sure other variances, people have come in there, built houses where they need variances. Here is somebody that has a long history in the Heights, going way back, and I just think that should be considered. I'm sure you will. I'd just like to voice that as my opinion. Full disclosure, I work part-time for White Tie Limousine. Maureen's husband owns White Tie Limousine. No one has asked me to come. No one's ever asked me. It has got nothing to do. I only work there part-time. So, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your comment.
Okay.
Any other members of the public wish to speak? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marjorie Johnson. I'm at 49A Harbor Ave, and I'm the one who had brought up the question about the definition of a bed and breakfast. This is the first time I'm hearing about a lodging house. I don't know what the difference is. My concern is the special permit is going to be for commercial accommodations. I want to make sure that there are clear stipulations, should this be approved, as to what is permitted, as commercial accommodations has boarding, lodging, tourist home, motel, hotel, inn. Definitions of a bed and breakfast are in Mass General Law. If you go to the town zoning site, it sends you to Mass General Law. So I just want to make sure that it's clear what is being permitted, and that giving a special permit for commercial accommodation doesn't open up the door to who knows what. I want to make sure that there's regulation. And because I did go and look at the file today, there was a letter that was submitted by Ms. Kelly on February 26th, where it states that they have hired an innkeeper and they're asking to operate year-round. At the last meeting, she indicated that they are living on site, which is how that they will live nearby. They will oversee the property, and I'm uncertain about how that's going to work when they're away for the winter. And I'm very concerned that allowing this special permit opens up the door for things that we're not anticipating. And I would just want to be certain that there are clear stipulations should this be approved tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for voicing your concern.
Do you want to
And
clarify the
application-
record that she said she lives at 20 Grand Ave?
So I think, yeah,
Last
just
meeting.
during the last public hearing, I think she doesn't, Ms. Kelly doesn't live on site. She lives at, what was this, 20
I
grand?
think it's 20 grand.
She said approximately 90 feet, I think was what she had said last time.
And
Okay.
the application before the board is for commercial accommodations for a special permit. It is, proposed use is a bed and breakfast, and Attorney Moynihan did explain that, the differences between Massachusetts general law, what they consider a bed and breakfast, and through the Falmouth Selectmen, I believe she said it was called a lodging license. So that's the mechanism by which in town that they obtain that
So
license.
the lodging license is to operate a bed and breakfast? Is that's where, and this is the first, all the documents are for a bed and breakfast, so
Right.
I'm not
And
understanding.
that's beyond our purview as a board. So if they need to obtain additional licenses from other boards in town, that's beyond our purview.
But the board will condition that all permits are received before occupancy and use.
And that's normally,
normal
that's
condition.
normally what we do with every application, whether it's a business, whether it's residential.
Okay, and I'm still not clear you're telling me that's not the purview of the zoning board. Whose purview is
I
it?
think we've said several times it's the Board of
It's
Selectmen.
the Board of Selectmen, so they'll be
No, I
going to the
haven't.
Board of Selectmen
The
to
board.
obtain
I
additional
told you that
licenses.
today in the
You told me that
office.
today, but I did not hear that here last time. Okay.
I said that.
Okay. It is 6:30. I'm going to ask the board to continue this hearing, open up the public hearings, and return to this,
Okay.
please.
I will make a motion to continue this to, let's say, 6:35, application 12117.
Second.
Motion was made by Kim, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, TJ, do you want to make note that you're going to be in session for the 6:30 hearings, and you're going to continue those until after 121-17 is whatever the board decides.
Duly noted. Not to be repetitive.
Except I'm not the board.
And
We don't need a motion to,
Please.
we do?
Yes.
I will make a motion that we continue the hearing scheduled for 6:30, including the continuation until after we finish our hearing on, and probably open meeting discussion on 12117.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion was made by Kim and second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now you can reconvene
Yeah,
into
continue that a little
121-17.
Do we need another motion for that, or
No.
we're all set? All right, back to the public comment portion of 121-17. Would anyone else like to speak regarding this application? And
Okay.
seeing none? I'm sorry, Attorney Moynihan?
I'd just like to make a few brief comments on, in response to the submission that you received this evening, the letter on the neighborhood, the residential neighborhood. You've heard a lot of information on that. I just want to get the information on the record in sort of a succinct description. We have condominiums across the street on Harbor Avenue, the Boatyard condominiums. We have condominiums at 49 Harbor Avenue down the street. We have motels, boatyards, we have home occupations going on abutting this property, all in close proximity to this particular property. Residential zoning itself is not a guarantee of single-family dwelling use only. As the board knows, there are many other potential business uses allowed in the residential district by right. Group daycare homes, childcare centers, sober houses, schools, churches, museums, libraries, nonprofit educational institutions. Those are all by right uses. Taking of 4 or fewer boarders, home occupations, hospitals, private clubs, scientific research. Here we have on this site a use variance that was issued in the 1970s. It was granted under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 18, which has since been repealed, but it is a use variance. It's still valid. That was Mr. Williams' use of the property for softball manufacturing and a marine boat shop. That use variance could be modified for some other use on this property that's commercial in nature. So in terms of looking at all of these uses that are going on in this particular neighborhood, I think the submission that you've received again tonight, that it's a quiet single-family neighborhood, really is not correct. And in doing that, the zoning board really is looking at its bylaw, the standards of 24016. It's town meeting's role to decide what goes on in a residential neighborhood, not the zoning board. The zoning board's role is to apply the bylaw. So here you have the standards of density being met. You have a lot that's over 1 acre. You have other rental uses going on in the neighborhood. You've had lodging house use at 8 Harbor Ave that went on for 20 or more years. So all of these things have gone on in this, or are going on in this neighborhood. The bylaw standard is, if the proposed use will not have adverse effects which overbalance its beneficial effects on either the neighborhood or the town. So the first question is, are there adverse effects? We're submitting no, that there are not, that ample mitigation has been applied here. Even if there were adverse effects, does the benefit to the neighborhood or the town outweigh those? You have a wealth of information in the file on the economic benefits of this use to the town, to the tax base, to promoting tourism, to the economic vitality of this neighborhood and the town as a whole. So with that, we would ask you to grant the special permit as requested, and appreciate that in addition to the many townspeople that have voiced their support in your file, there are also others in the neighborhood and in close proximity that have indicated their support for the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Moynihan. Okay, I think it would be appropriate to have some board discussion. If the board would like to.
They applied for a bed and breakfast. Do we approve the special permit as a bed and breakfast, or?
They applied for a commercial accommodation.
Okay, I was reading, okay, so we're approving it as.
That's what the bylaw
Okay.
is for.
The finding, if the board approves it, one of the findings will be that she intends to operate it as a B&B.
Okay.
I'll jump in. Sure. Because I tend to jump in first. So, I mean, I'm in favor of this project. I think it's a good project. I think it satisfies all of the criterias, 240, 216, adequacy of the site. It's a very large lot for Falmouth Heights, over 1 acre. It's, I think, pretty well wooded right now, and then they're going to be putting in 20 Leland cypress, and there's a fence. So there's a lot of buffering going on. A lot of the concerns that were raised, I mean, certainly light spill is a concern, but some of it's not really, I don't want to say zoning based, but I mean, somebody could put a 60-watt bulb on their lot, on their property as of right. So some of the concerns, and certainly the condition of the property right now, a dumpster on site, people get dumpsters and they stay on the property. I understand this has been there for an extended period, but that's not proposed as part of this use. Suitability of the site, again, I agree. I think it's an appropriate location for this. Impact on traffic flow and safety. We heard crazy, I heard that it's going to double the property, and then today, double the traffic, and today I read in the submission, an increase by 66%. There's 4 bedrooms on the property. They're proposing to increase it to 6. There's 6 other properties kind of on that portion of the roadway. I don't know where those numbers come from. I don't think that they're accurate, and I don't think that there's going to be this large impact on traffic flow and safety. Neighborhood visual character, this house actually looks pretty modest compared to some of the other properties in the neighborhood. Let me see. And then I think that the applicant's been great about addressing some of the concerns. The buffering, quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m., submission of the landscape plan, no freestanding sign. So I think that there's just a number of items. We'll certainly have to condition it, in my opinion, to address those concerns. But I'm on board with this. I think it's a nice application.
Anyone else like to make any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not voting on this, but, you know, in the age of Airbnb that is completely unregulated and unenforceable, I think that someone that comes forward that wants to properly permit a bed and breakfast, have it conditioned by the Board of Appeals, have the application socialized in a public hearing, should be applauded. So I think this is a nice proposal, and I wish I was voting on it.
As far as the lot is concerned, I think they've actually gone minimal of what you can do on the site. So I think they've taken that into concern because they do live in the area. They have run a business in the area. It's a plus, as far as I'm concerned, that somebody running this has some kind of managerial experience in accommodations. They know things that can go wrong. They're around. They know how to change different situations. The parking on site is clearly adequate. I've driven the neighborhood multiple times now around the whole site. The architecture fits in much better now than what previously existed. I know there was issues before at the last meeting that they thought there was a big concern with flooding. I actually visited the site during the last rainstorm, and the flooding that was discussed was coming from Central Park Court. It wasn't coming from the site. It naturally grades towards the harbor, and it just happened to be pooling because it's a lower area. But I think it fits very well in the community, and it's a walking area. You're going to have possibly another restaurant down there. They can walk to the beach, they can walk to the harbor. I don't think you're going to be having as many trips back and forth. I think most people in here are going to be walking in the area. And they have handled almost everything that we've asked. I mean, I like the idea of the tree buffering. I think they've gone beyond what they needed to do, but it's something that, you know, that they suggested, which is fine. But I don't see any negatives at this point of the project, and I'd be in favor.
I agree with you, Bob. I think it is a passive use of the property. If you look through the zoning, there is a lot more that the applicant could do to the property, given the size and what's allowed under zoning. And I think the applicant also adequately addressed all of our concerns, and specifically the lighting. A few weeks ago, I did drive by at night. There was an issue with the lights. I drove by again last night, and as the testimony had it, the lighting was resolved. So it's good to see that someone was proactive about that.
I think it's a good project, and I think that they've done more than I would expect anybody to do, but all the more comment, it should be approved. And I think there's a lot worse options that could be done on that land. And I think we should prove this before something worse happens.
I would also just know, I mean, and to the point about lot coverage and the suitability of the site, so the proposed lot coverage is 9.5%, which is
And
half of what they're allowed as of right.
And they're not expanding the footprint.
Right.
I mean, they started to say, I mean, you could, I mean, I think everyone knows, you could put 4 dwelling units on the site.
Oh, yeah.
You could apply for it very easily.
Oh, yeah.
And there's very few lots in the Heights that are acre lots.
Yeah.
So I think it's nice that someone's looking at a property this size and has chosen to keep it small.
And I also, I do appreciate Attorney Moynihan's point, and I know this was discussed previously too, that there was a use variance for commercial use on this site. So this isn't the first time that there's been an introduction or some use on the site that's maybe not single-family dwelling or 100% single-family dwelling. And that use coexisted with these properties around it, so I think that's the nature of the neighborhood.
I couldn't add anything more in favor of the project.
Okay.
So based on that discussion, I'll move that we close, since we haven't done that yet.
Second.
Motion was made by Kim, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I will move that we have Sri draft a favorable decision.
Okay.
Of course, we can give her some guidance towards that.
Yes.
I think you have in your comments.
Yeah.
Those are all very good findings. If you'd like to discuss conditions, I think that's appropriate.
Is there a second? Am I?
I'll second.
Oh, excuse me, I apologize.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion was made by Kim, second by Jerry.
Per plan?
Per plan. And including the landscape plan that was received on February 28th, 2018.
Parking will be limited to the guests and staff members of
Yeah, I
the
wonder
facility.
if as part of that, we want to note, like, no off-site parking, or however you want to word it.
You mean on the street or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good point.
No more than 6 bedrooms.
Yes.
Hours of operation.
Well, the hours of
Well,
operation,
The
No,
quiet
yeah,
time?
What
hours
about
of
the quiet
zone.
hours?
I think that should be a finding. I don't know how you can condition and enforce that, but it's a finding that the applicant stated 10 to
Yeah.
6. Or, excuse
10
me,
to
10 to
9.
9.
Yep.
So, I think you should just add that all the stormwater,
The additional drainage is
yeah,
discussed, French drains and,
that it's maintained, all drainage maintained. Do you want to do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
On site.
Do we want to condition, there was some discussion about cooking facilities? I mean, I don't want to limit them too much,
Well,
but
very
you
difficult
don't
if-
allow microwaves as a cooking
Right.
facility. So a coffee pot isn't.
yes.
There shouldn't be any cooking facilities in the room. And there's a petition before town meeting now that's for
for the
hotels,
facilities, yeah.
not for this. In the
Right.
past, you've been,
So that wouldn't
Adamant
exclude
about
a
no-
mini fridge or something like that?
no, you can have a wet bar. you
And a
can have
coffee
You can have a
maker.
refrigerator, you
Right.
can have a sink,
Right.
coffee.
Cannot have a microwave, though.
Not yet, no.
Well, it's what's in front of us
I
now.
mean, it's up to the board.
Right.
Really.
No, I
but
think
in the
that's-
past, there has been no cooking facilities, and a microwave is a cooking facility,
Yeah.
believe it or not,
Okay, I think
as is a
that's,
hot plate.
I think
This
that's,
is a new wave cooking thing now.
I think that's appropriate. I don't know if you guys agree.
And they
Do we
do
want-
have access to the kitchen, so
Right, that's
then it's
kind of the
microwaves.
point, is that,
Do we want to specify a coffee pot is allowed? I mean, that's not cooking.
No.
No, I
Because it's
usually
too-
just do
that's
cooking
what-
facilities, which includes a stove, a microwave, a hot plate, or any type of,
Okay. I
Okay.
interpret that to mean a coffee pot could be allowed.
coffee pot's not a cooking,
yeah, that's what
That's what I think I was trying to say.
Yeah.
In those words.
we agreed for the second time.
You get wisdom with age.
Anything else, Suri, that you can think of that's,
I
mean,
know,
we're
but
draft-
a
you're-
finding that, another finding that I've got to add here, 1 second, that it's year-round proposed.
right.
Excuse me.
And we went through 240, 216 in our discussion.
Yeah, which I'll go through that.
No tenancies.
Except for.
Right, the manager on
Right,
site, which would be
manager on site,
a
we'll have a
finding.
finding as to that.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we'll be able to review it before
Yeah.
we vote
Right,
on it.
I can't, you don't have another hearing until March 15th, so it'll
Okay.
be back before the board in an
Thank
open
you.
meeting on March 15th.
Okay, does that do it, Kim?
From
All I
my
have to do is
perspective.
call the vote.
All right, so the motion was made to direct Sri to draft a favorable decision for application 121-17. That was made by Kim and second by Jerry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
And Laura, I'll send the draft to you.
Can I see that?
As well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I spaced out.
No, it's okay. All right, so the next
Next, we do have a continuation.
All right, so the next matter on the agenda is application 8217, Lawrence Lynch Realty Company, and we received a request from attorney Edward Kirk on behalf of his applicant that we continue this matter
May 3rd.
to May 3rd, 2018 at 6:30 PM here in Town Hall.
Sounds like that was a motion
Yes.
made by you, Kim?
Oh, I move that we, yes, continue to
I'll
that
second
date
it.
and time.
Motion made by Kim, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Now we have our new hearings. Up next, we have application 6-18, WCS Inc., 225 Main Street, Falmouth. Special permit to allow a 20 by 30 seasonal tent at the rear of the property.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can you designate which alternate sits on this hearing, please?
Thank you. We'll have Jerry sit on this.
Okay.
Very beautiful.
Looks better when it's set up.
Yeah.
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that WCS Inc. of Falmouth, Massachusetts, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-160A of the Code of Falmouth to allow a 20 by 30 temporary tent on subject property known as 225 Main Street, Falmouth, Massachusetts. For referrals. Engineering. Oh. Ooh.
What's the signature?
Oh. Yeah, it's just so they just, I don't think it says anything.
It's no comment.
No comment? It's just a little differently.
Yeah, because usually you see something.
Yeah, okay. Fire department, no comment. Water. If no water required, not an issue. Assessors, no comment. Planning, no comment. And there were 2 letters of opposition submitted.
Okay. And for the applicant?
The applicant.
Hi, Mark Solfone, Cynthia Solfone.
Hi.
La Cucina Sumare, 237 Main Street. And, I mean, if you have any questions for us.
Yeah. We have
Um,
that dining room, we've had it for 12 years now, and we love having it, and we do a lot of rehearsal dinners, and sometimes weddings, and put our larger parties out there, and
This board, just for a little bit of history, this board issued a permit. Through the years, they've allowed me to do administrative approval and to come back in 5 years for the board in case there's any changes.
So this is the 5-year?
So I'm a little late.
This is the
It's been
5-year
7
mark?
years.
We'll call this the 5-year mark, sir?
Yes, yeah,
We
please
weren't
do.
sure on track.
I have received absolutely no complaints on this whatsoever.
Okay. We can turn it to board questions. Jerry, would you like to start?
One question that actually came from a neighbor that I think was opposed, traversing from Curtis Street. That's a parking lot. That Curtis Street ends at someone's parking lot. I don't know if it's your parking lot.
Yeah, it's our parking lot.
Okay, because they were concerned that it avoids, well, it doesn't matter. If it's your parking lot, you
Yeah.
can do what you
Yeah,
want.
it's private parking lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Kim, any questions?
Yeah, I guess how late are people sat outside?
yeah, well, in the summertime, yeah, which is when it's there, pretty
Yeah.
much, it we stopped serving at 10.
But people could go out there and have drinks out there?
No.
Generally, no. It's,
Never.
the tent itself is
No.
probably exited before the rest of the restaurant or dining. The staff there usually leaves by 9:30. So there's no music, there's no after.
No
know,
late
dinner
night
out, no.
drinking or anything?
No, it's just for, it's
You might
basically for
see me.
overflow. Yeah.
Okay.
Going, oh,
Dinner service.
I'm busy now.
And then when do you put it up and when do you take it down?
We'd like to put it up by Memorial Weekend and generally through Columbus. I mean, I wouldn't mind asking for an extension or beyond that because of now the stroll. And weather permitting, if the stroll is successful, we could have actually used that this year.
That's all
Which is
I-
what date, Mark?
It's the second week, is it the second, December 2nd, that weekend?
Okay.
Parade weekend, I believe?
It is parade weekend.
Yeah.
Okay.
All second?
That is all I have.
Ed, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, and I've used the facility and worked good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul?
No questions.
No, just for confirmation, the tent, though, is enclosed. I know the photo that we're all looking at is an open,
Oh, yeah.
There
There's
was
another
one
photo, I
submitted
think.
that shows it enclosed.
Yeah.
We have lattice around it, we also have
yeah, so
plastic.
so that would help to break, to cut down any noise anyways.
And there are parking stanchions there.
And I have shears up and, you know, it's pretty. Lots of big grease to make it cozy.
It's nice.
You did state that you use the tent for rehearsal dinners and things of that nature. Do you do it for nightly dinners at all, or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone can come.
And when we say large parties, it could be 10, 15 people. It's mainly our overflow where we can't fit those big parties inside.
Sure. All right. Any other questions from the board? All right, we'll turn it to public comment. And any comments, questions, concerns?
I am very much in favor of this project, of them having the tent. Obviously, my guests love going there. It's a nice added feature in the spring and summer for them to be able to kind of dine outside.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Name for the record.
Oh, that's right.
Maureen Kelly, 20 Grand Avenue.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Anyone else like to comment on this application? All right, seeing none, what would the board's?
I just have a question for Saray.
Sure.
The only, Curtis Ave isn't just accessed over that private lot, right? It's
No.
access on the other.
On the other end. I forget
So-
the name, Prospect, is that it?
Prospect Street, yeah.
Yeah, so they're accessing that just kind of as, they're cutting over somebody else's property. Maybe they have rights, maybe they don't, I don't know, but, okay.
Yeah, I didn't go through their deeds.
Right, so, but that's not the only access to the
No,
property?
no,
Okay.
no.
All right.
And that is a cut-through. That driveway is a cut-through. From, when people don't want to go to Main Street, they cut through and go down Walker, or go down Walker, cut through there. So their traffic isn't just from the businesses that are there. There are several businesses in that building, by the way.
Right.
I tried to show it on the map where
Yeah.
it is.
Does where the tent's located eliminate any parking spaces?
No.
Okay. that's all.
It abuts their back door.
Yeah, I've been. I will move that we close the hearing.
Second it?
Motion to close by Kim, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And what would be the pleasure of the board?
I think it's operated very well. I know that these neighbors have concerns, but I think that's a concern generally about the,
Whole area.
yeah, about Main Street and the activities on Main Street in the summer and how busy it is in that area generally. I think it's certainly persuasive that service out there stops at 10. It's not as if there's drinking or service out there after the dinner service, so I think we should make a finding to that effect. But I also think, Sri, I'm sure you have this decision that we've done before, and I maybe think it appropriate to continue it for another 5-year check, so that they don't have to come in.
And what about his, do you want to discuss the extension that he's requesting from
To the stroll.
after Columbus Day? I think it's October 15th is when I put it in the decision, and, because it does take a day or two to take it down. If you want to,
I think that's appropriate. I mean, Columbus Day and anything after that, he might catch some good weather and might have some additional patrons out there.
Do we have to
And
make a date specified?
the Christmas stroll is becoming increasingly popular in
Yeah.
town, so.
So should we make it to the Christmas stroll? That way they don't have to use it, but if they wanted to.
I won't do a date specific, I'll just say no later than like December 15th, because
Oh,
it
okay.
varies with the
Yeah.
weekend.
That's-
You know, when
yeah.
the first falls on a Monday, then, you know, so. And it does, like I said, take them a day or two to take it down. If that's okay with the board.
Yeah, I agree.
Everyone on
Sure.
board with that?
December 15th.
Is there anything else?
I don't
No.
think so. Do we have an actual motion to approve that?
No, Chad.
No? Would anyone like to make that?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
Move to approve by Jerry, second by Ed. All those in favor?
aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. See you later.
Get the wine.
No
in.
advertising, Cindy.
This is a good time.
Very good.
My seat just came up.
And next we have application 3-18, Ashton Welch, 82 Jones Road, Falmouth, special permit to construct addition, increasing lot coverage over 20%. And sitting on this will be Bob Dugan.
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Andrew Ashton and Kelly Ashton Welch of Falmouth, Massachusetts, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-3C, 240-68B, and 240-69E of the Code of Falmouth to construct an addition creating habitable space to the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling exceeding 20% lot coverage by structures on subject property known as 82 Jones Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts. And for referrals, engineering had its standard comment. We recommend adding dry wells, rain garden, or other stormwater measure for the roof. Planning had no comment. Water had no comment. Fire department had no comment, and we received one letter with no objections.
Okay, for the applicant?
Good evening, Joel Kubik with Holmes McGrath. We prepared this plan and application. Also in the package of information, you got our architectural plans of the existing proposed house prepared by William Lewis Lansky. With me tonight are the homeowners. This is a single-family home. It's been in existence since about 1929. It's a one-story house. It's had a modest addition put on at some point in the past, but it's a smaller home. It's in a diverse neighborhood. There's a lot of different zones in that area. There's an Oak Grove Cemetery is to the rear of this property. There's one residential house to the west of this property, and then there's more of the cemetery. To the east, there are two vacant residential properties. This house is actually accessed by a right-of-way from Jones Road, so it's set back over 170 feet from the roadway. It's difficult to see it as you drive by. It's kind of tucked away back there. There are a lot of other business and institutional type facilities up and down this street in this area. But this little residential neighborhood is a mixture of different houses, one-story, one-and-a-half-story, two-story homes. So what we are proposing today is to put a half-story addition on the rear of the house. It's no increase in bedrooms. They are going to put in a new septic system, Title V system, to replace the existing cesspool, just because the new foundation is going to be too close to that. It's not in failure or anything at this time. house is a pre-existing non-conforming structure because it is too close to the property lines. It's 1.2 feet off of that westerly property line right now. By modifying it for the addition, they're actually cutting it back a little bit. It's going to be 1.3 feet, so a slight increase in that setback. The front deck is 1.4 feet off of the property line right now, and that's proposed to remain as is. There are a couple existing sheds on the property. So the increase in lot coverage is from 18.0% right now to 22.7% once the addition is added on. There's going to be a full foundation put under a good portion of the addition and a small portion of the house. The existing deck is going to be relocated to the further back behind the addition. There's a new porch that's being proposed on the west side of the property along the driveway. So I believe this is no more detrimental to the neighborhood. The existing house to the west is located much closer to Jones Road. Again, the two existing residential properties to the east are vacant, so there's no real shading or anything that's going to be, created by this slight half-story increase in height. It's still going to be less than 35 feet allowed by the zoning bylaw. I would ask that you approve this special permit as it's prepared.
Let's see, Bob, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Paul?
No questions.
No questions.
Kim, any questions?
Yeah, I do. So the east side existing setback right now is what?
1.2.
It's not shown on there, but it's more than the 16-foot that's shown on the proposed. You can see the proposed steps off of the porch are 16 feet. It's probably 17 feet. It's just one step closer.
So you're making that more non-conforming?
It's 17 feet. It's not.
So, wait, so I'm seeing existing bulkhead is set back 17.5 feet, and you're proposing stairs that are 16 feet setback.
But it's 10-foot minimum.
Okay, geez,
Side yard.
Louise, sorry.
It's okay.
So what's treated as the front yard then?
The Jones Road side is what's considered the front yard. It doesn't actually have frontage on Jones Road, but like I
Okay.
said, there's a right-of-way that accesses.
Okay, I was treating that as the
Okay.
front yard, okay.
No, the 1.4 is a lot less than the 25.
All right, so, yeah, it is. Okay. And then those sheds in the rear, what are the use of those?
Bike storage, lawn equipment, toys.
Any consideration given to removing one or both of those?
It's been considered. It still doesn't bring them under the 20%. I looked at those numbers.
Okay.
So
Are those, I guess they're on a concrete pad, are those easily movable so that you could eliminate the encroachment?
they're not easily, but they could be moved.
Okay.
I talked to the
Okay. And number of bedrooms, I apologize.
3 existing, 3 proposed.
Okay, that's all I had for right now.
Jerry, any questions?
No questions.
All right, and Kim actually took care of a couple of my questions, so I'm all set. Turn it over to public comment. Does anyone wish to make any comment, questions, concerns, anything? All right, seeing none. How does the board feel about this project?
Do we need discussion, or can we move to close the hearing?
Well, we don't necessarily need discussion. We can close the hearing if we think we've heard everything that we need. Would anyone like to close the
I'm not
hearing?
a
or-
voter. I'm not a
Oh,
voter.
I'm sorry, you're not voting on this, sorry. Would the board like to close the hearing?
I'd like to make a
Discussion?
motion to close the public hearing.
Second it.
Motion was made by Paul, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a little, the setbacks are just so minimal. It's more minimal than I'm seeing. But
With
It
a
is an
slight
old house, though.
improvement to one.
yeah, very slight improvement. I mean, I think it's an approvable project, given that's one story, it's in the rear, there's a lot of space around it. It looks like this was just kind of the nature of how this area grew up. I think we should require that they move the shed onto their property and,
Encroachment.
yeah, the encroaching shed and require it to comply with the setback. I'd like to see one of those at least removed by, it doesn't change the outcome, and it's certainly not viewable from the public way, so. And I think an as-built plan would be appropriate since it's 1.8 feet from the side yard there.
Where the additions are isn't going to get, that's a 17, 18-foot setback, but you want, if you approve it, you want it for the shed, verification of
Well,
setback.
verification for the shed, but isn't there, am I reading, isn't part of the proposed additions 1.8 feet?
Correct.
Yeah,
But it's no closer than the 1.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's true.
1.3, 1.6.
1.3.
But they can include that, of course.
Yeah,
That would be an as-built.
Yeah.
I think it's appropriate, given how
So,
tight
yeah,
this
if the
is.
board wants, they can do an as-built post-construction,
Yeah.
showing all appurtenances and setback of the shed.
Anyway, so those are my thoughts.
Sounds good.
Think as
I
built.
like these plans, like they're a lot easier to view. Instead of like the.
I think an as-built is appropriate.
All right, so, I was going into chair mode.
I'm sorry?
I said I was going into chair mode. and-
No, that's all right. How would the board like to proceed? Anyone like to make a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit.
Second.
All right. Paul and Ed, go on to findings and conditions.
It's a one-story home. So increase in lot coverage, but not really an increase in bulk. Although I know no calculations were received relative to that.
Not very many residences in the area.
No. Finding that the plan shows that there's a possible encroachment of the rear shed. Three bedrooms to remain 3 bedrooms. That, I would say that the proposed addition deck will increase the utilization for the property owners.
Not more detrimental?
Yeah, not more detrimental.
Can't see it from the street.
Yeah, you can't, I think that's a good point, that's setback off the street to the rear. I mean, this is like a zoning lawyer's dream. You've got encroachments, you've got 1-foot setbacks, you've got no frontage, it's incredible. It's like everything it's like everything that could be wrong is wrong on this property.
They didn't need a zoning lawyer.
Take your attorney hat off.
Yeah, I know, I am. I'm just looking, I'm like.
It's
oh,
hard to
man.
do,
Yeah,
sorry.
I know.
no frontage either.
I know, I appreciate it when you're attorneys, but don't try and pick up any
Hey,
deals.
we're approving. Yeah, I think 24216. And conditions per plans and as-built.
As-built.
And removal of the shed.
Removal?
I mean, not removal of the shed,
No.
excuse me, but
Relocation.
relocation
Relocation.
so that satisfies the setback.
Which will be, so we'll do the shed relocated
And
in
will not
compliance,
encroach. Yes,
and then the as-built,
yes.
post-construction, because you want to get the full effect of everything, right?
And remain 3 bedrooms. Oh, can we add for finding that their testimony was that they're putting in a new Title V system? That was the stuff.
It's in there, I
Oh,
already put
okay,
it.
great.
Sorry, I just kind of jump ahead sometimes.
Paul and Ed, anything else?
No. No.
All right, motion was made by Paul and second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Joel.
All right. Nope.
Can we take it like a 5-minute break?
I
know
think
it's still kind of early.
That would be appropriate.
Okay.
We'll be in recess for 5 minutes.
Oh, really?
All right, and we are back. Next up on the agenda, we have application 4-18, Messer, 190 Goleta Drive in Hatchville, special permit to construct a detached accessory apartment. And sitting on this will be Jerry.
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Thomas L. and Mauricia F. Messer of Hatchville, Massachusetts, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-38I of the Code of Falmouth to allow a detached accessory apartment on subject property known as 190 Goleta Drive, Hatchville, Massachusetts. And for referrals, one with no comment, assessors with no comment, fire department, no comment, planning applicant filed a site plan review application with planning board and will be on February 13, 2018 agenda.
And it was continued.
Okay. And then one letter with comments and concerns was received.
Excuse me, it wasn't continued, it was closed, but they haven't given a decision yet. So this board, once you hear testimony, will continue it.
Okay. And we did receive a memo from the planning board recently outlining some concerns that they have. It's in the file.
Okay. And for the applicant?
There are new plans with tonight's date, the site plans.
January.
There are site plans in the file.
this one's not
It's a new one.
I have
There they are.
the small ones?
No, right, TJ has all four of them.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Sorry, I just folded them and put them in there after I stamped them.
Can be ours. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Thomas Messer, 190 Goleta Drive, Hatchville.
Marisha Messer, 190 Goleta Drive.
We are asking for the zoning board to approve a special permit for a detached accessory apartment, essentially. We read the new bylaw, part of which says its intent is to encourage greater diversity of population with particular attention to young adult citizens and to allow for aging in place for our senior citizens. And it seems as though that sentence was written with us in mind. My wife and I and my daughter and son-in-law and grandson all occupy the existing structure at 190 Goleta Drive. We would like to put up an accessory structure that my wife and I would move into in order to age in place and allow the younger generation to take over the existing structure. The younger generation are people one who is employed at the Marine Biological Laboratory, and my daughter, that's my son-in-law, and my daughter is employed as the Falmouth Road Race, not as the Falmouth Road Race, at the Falmouth Road Race. And my wife and I are both teachers in Falmouth and have been for many years, in fact. Did you want to say something? Okay. In addition to that information, we have both lived in Falmouth for over 30 years, more like 40 years actually. Both of our children have grown up in Falmouth, and our son actually lives not in Falmouth but in Bourne, but is also nearby. We are trying to fulfill the spirit of the bylaw amendment by aging in place and by allowing the young professional next generation to reside in Falmouth. Obviously, everybody knows that the price of housing is essentially beyond the reach of anybody who has a modest professional position. My wife and I are both teachers, as I said, and we bought our property 35 years ago at a time when the prices were certainly more reasonable, but there's not a chance that our daughter and son-in-law could afford to buy a house in Falmouth. So, on that, we have met with the Board of Health in April of last year. They approved our proposal for a septic system, a separate septic system for the accessory structure. We met with the Planning Board, as you mentioned, on February 13th, and they came up with several concerns that they had, and we have tried, anyways, to address those concerns. The main concern that they mentioned was the fact that the proposed accessory structure will not fit, I guess you could say, will not look like an accessory structure to the existing house. And so in response to that, we had our architect redesign the accessory structure to make it look more like the existing house. And then here, so this is the...
Tom, take the microphone with you so TV land can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is the new proposal. The original proposal didn't have any cedar shingles on it. It was basically a white wall, essentially, and green trim. And that is exactly what our house looks like as well. It has cedar shingles and green trim. We also are going to have windows that match those of the existing house, specifically double-hung, just double-hung windows, no mullions. And the roof color is kind of hard to tell on that picture, I suppose, but it's going to, again, match the existing structure. We redesigned the driveway so that it will be a single driveway for both buildings. In other words, you drive up that single driveway, pull off to the side essentially for the existing structure, and then continue on the same driveway to the accessory structure. We worked with the site engineer to redesign the driveway so that a single driveway will be for both buildings, creating the desired effect of a subordinate structure to the existing house. These changes will make the accessories similar and subordinate to the existing house in design. And we respectfully request the board's consideration for the fact that this most importantly, is a structure that will allow us to age in place, and therefore really needs to be one floor. And we actually have been working closely with the planning board to kind of achieve that goal. The siting of the proposed structure was another concern that the planning board brought up. The siting is dictated by the topography of the site, by the septic setbacks, the shape of the lot, and the fact that the accessory structure needs to be behind the rear line of the existing home. That kind of puts us in a fairly small area where the structure can be put. And as a result, that's why it appears as it does. The current siding is hidden from view from the road. And in fact, I have another picture here. This is a picture of the site from the road. And it would, in fact, as you can see, is heavily wooded, and it would be, I believe, about 100 or 120 feet back from that. So you would be able to see it through the woods, but you certainly wouldn't notice it that much. Okay, so that's that, right? We were also advised about the size of the structure and received a statement that it exceeded the 40% limit. We have a letter from our architect with the calculations. You don't need to know, you want to know the numbers of the calculation? Okay, so the existing exterior footprint is 945.6 square feet. The plan calls for a cutout from that would be for a porch. That would be 82 square feet. So that would be subtracted from the existing footprint, from the proposed footprint. And the material that we're using for this is going to be 7.5 inches thick, which is thicker than a standard wall. And that will take up a little over 90 square feet. So when you subtract the porch cutout and the wall thickness, it comes up to 773 square feet, and that works out to 38.5% of the existing structure's floor area. We also went around to our abutters to talk about the design and the site plan. We went to 6 of our 7 abutters. The 7th abutter is recused because he is on the planning board. So at any rate, we met with 6 out of 7. 5 of the abutters signed letters saying that they support the design and siding. The 6th abutter said that she had concerns over the existing parking situation. That actually is kind of a fortuitous statement because as it is right now, we have 4 cars and there's only room for 2 cars in our driveway, so right now we're parking on the street. That is an issue because snowplows have to come around and they have in fact refused to plow the road when there's cars in the road. So this plan would take care of that issue. So in response to her concerns about the existing parking, we explained that if we are granted the permit, the current parking problem would be alleviated. And she then stated that she did not take any issue with the design. And we have the letters that I mentioned here, if you would like to see them. I don't know what the process is.
If you could submit them to the file.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. If you need copies, I can scan them to you.
No, that's
Okay,
fine, thank
yeah.
you.
So that's kind of the end of my presentation. Marisha would like to speak to the letter which you received from one of our abutters and address the specific issues that he mentioned as well.
I'm going to be very brief. I don't know if, for the record, you need me to read Mr. Leary's concerns? or
It's in the
just-
file, Marisha.
Okay, so I can just speak to, all right. We're very grateful to Mr. Leary for expressing such strong support for this project and for voicing his concerns so that we can make sure that he is comfortable with our going forward. Our relationship with our neighbors is of the utmost importance to us, and we absolutely want to do what's needed to make the process harmonious for all. Mr. Leary's first concern, he calculated the size by the exterior footprint, which includes the deck and the 7.5-foot walls, as my husband spoke about. The actual living space, which is what the board considers, is 773 square feet, which is under the maximum allowed by the bylaw. His second concern about design is currently being addressed through the redesign of the house and the driveway and the close work that we're doing with the planning board. His third concern about the driveway has been redesigned, which should alleviate the concern that Mr. Leary raises about the driveway and parking. We are extending the existing driveway and including parking on this driveway for 4 cars. The proposed parking will alleviate the parking crunch that we now have and will place the cars in spaces along a single driveway. His fourth concern, the current placement will have the structure in the woods and set far back from the road. It is screened by wooded area on the south, west, and north. Given our purpose of having a low-maintenance home for our elder years, we have no intention of having a lawn, and our intent is to let nature overtake the area again. There will be some thinning on the back, the south side of the property, to allow for the light to enter this small space. The road side, which is north, and the western side, which faces Mr. Leary's property, will, following construction, be allowed to return to its existing state. The last concern, we contacted Jack Landers-Colley's office, who is the site and septic engineer, to see how to best address Mr. Leary's concern. The site engineer said that the dry wells that we are implementing will take care of any roof runoff. He said that he created a swale to manage any drainage. He said that he can guarantee that Mr. Leary's property will not become a vernal pool for a variety of reasons, 2 of which are this is not how vernal pools are created, and additionally, with the stirring up of some of the compacted soil from construction, any drainage that may be now occurring naturally will actually decrease because of the air pockets and improved saturation level of the soil. The driveway extension will be permeable, and so no runoff will occur from this. He said that there will be no drainage that will be additional to what is now occurring, and that this is an unwarranted concern.
Can you submit that letter to the record as well?
I can.
Okay. Guess we can, board
Excuse
question?
me, just one thing. Do you want to explain to the board about the carport, please?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Suri. As we said, we've done extensive redesigning. I believe what you have in front of you may have a carport listed here. Per the planning board, which wasn't happy with that part of the design, we had that removed, so there will not be a carport. We are also talking with the planning board about ways that the cottage can be resited to make it appear to be more of a garage structure. So those are some of the things that we're working with them. We just put this particular drawing here to show that Mr. Leary's concern about where it is sited. There's really very little other area for it to go, given all of the criteria that we need to meet. This is just to show how wooded the area is, and that we plan to have it return to this level of nature. And in terms of keeping in company with the other houses on our cul-de-sac, we have a ranch across the street, there's a colonial behind us, there's a Victorian next to us. So, having a ranch style actually is very similar to what's across the street. But we are working with the planning board to make it more of a subordinate structure to the existing house.
Thank you. Jerry, do you have any questions?
Not at this time. I don't have the correct site in front of me, so I think others will.
Kim, any questions?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. You didn't touch on rental, any proposed rental? No. On the plans that we received, I understand these may have changed, January 8th of the floor plans.
Yes.
You show a future bathroom in the basement?
Yes.
When is that? I guess how far in the future?
That was actually, we met with Rod Palmer, and that was actually at his suggestion. We hadn't planned on that. And he said there's no reason not to put a bathroom down there because we're going to have the plumbing for the washing machine and dryer. But that space is intended to be storage space.
Okay, so the basement, I know it's marked as unfinished here?
Yes, correct.
Okay, but washer and dryer will be downstairs?
Yes, and storage for, because it's a smaller space for us, we'll need a lot of storage.
Okay, I have a question about this, right? So in calculating floor space, is it just the footprint, or is it's the floor?
It's the floor space, the living.
So if
floor
it's
space.
unfinished basement,
It's unfinished, it's not habitable.
it doesn't count? Even if they're adding a bathroom
Bathroom's not habitable space.
and washer dryer? Okay. The other question I have is that on the elevations that were submitted today, shows it looks like it shows a slider on that lower level?
Yes, for light, just for the walkout basement.
Okay, so that's different, I guess, than the floor plans that we received, I think.
I don't know. The answer is yeah.
I'm just trying to make sense of where that would be.
Yeah,
It's on the floor plan right there. Is that not a sliding?
Upstairs, but not downstairs. They're showing a slider in the basement.
I don't see a slider in the basement, I see a window.
On west elevation. I think that's a slider, yeah?
I don't have the new.
I believe we had asked the architect
Yeah.
for as much light as we could manage down there, and he felt that a slider would be actually the least expensive way to get light in there.
Oh. Okay. That's all I had for questions for right now.
I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Bob, any questions?
No questions. I just have a little concern of I can understand adding a bathroom downstairs with not habitable space, but it would lend it, there's a chance that eventually would become habitable space.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I have some comment on
That would be a
board
board's
comment.
condition.
Would you be amenable to a condition regarding the basement if we restrict it as unfinished space?
Sir, at this point, we're amenable to anything.
It would have to be considered unfinished because of the bylaw itself, can't be more than 40%
Right.
and no greater than 800
With the square footage,
foot.
right?
Right,
And I
that
think
was-
that's what the planning board is trying to get at, because that's a concern, and it would, of course, violate what's the intent of it
Yeah.
is.
I have another question. So this calculation here, there's a calculation, existing structure, let's say 1,300 square feet, and existing and proposed structure, 2,800 square feet. That includes the carport? Is that?
No.
No.
Are you looking at the
I'm
existing
looking at the
dwelling?
March 1st, 2018, that was just received today. It still shows a carport. So
Yes, it
that's-
does.
So I'm just trying to understand where that it's almost 1,500 square feet increase in structural lot coverage.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
does-
I would say that
You
they
gotta take
probably
off the
count,
Includes the
it probably
carport.
Yeah,
does, sure.
Right, okay.
Right, they haven't changed the carport
Okay.
on the site
On the
plan yet.
Okay.
In case you guys want something else, why, do it all at once
Right,
instead
yeah,
of
no, I
costing
understand.
them
Okay.
money.
That's all I have for questions, but I think some discussion. with this.
The only thing that I would throw out to you as far as the bathroom is we do have a grandchild and potentially more in the future. It would be lovely to have a second bathroom just in case the child is in the house and is in need of a second bathroom. It is not critical, and we will certainly do as the board sees fit, but it would be a functional thing for us to have.
And I realize you are limited by topography in terms of where you can put the proposed structure, but the lot itself is a decent size. How large is it?
33,291 square feet, 3/4 of an acre.
Okay. No more questions for me. Anyone else have any other questions?
No.
No.
Turn it to the public. Anyone wish to make comments, questions, concerns? Yes, sir.
Green shrimp.
Thank you. My name is Scott Bennett. I'm Tom and Marisha's son-in-law. So I'll make this brief because I don't want to belabor a lot of the points that they've already made here. But since I've been living in Falmouth now I've been a resident for 5 years, and I realize that's pittance compared to many of the people who currently live here. But since I've lived in this town, I've heard a lot of talk from people about the elderly being able to age in place, about young people being able to afford houses here and increasing the young population, and also about building eco-friendly buildings, so on and so forth. And so because this structure ticks all of those boxes, I'm hoping that those aren't going to be overlooked by the fact that the structure, even in its state now that it's been redesigned, hopefully that redesign mitigates some of the issues that the planning board had with it. But I'm hoping that those very beneficial check marks are not overshadowed by the need to retain some kind of quaint Cape Cod shingled aesthetic in order to maintain, I'm not sure what. With that, that's all the comment I have.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to comment? Okay. Kim, you mentioned.
Yeah,
you might wanna-
I thought it just made sense, Robert, I know you were saying some stuff, and just to have a little bit more discussion since this will be continued. I think my concern is probably the same as the planning board's. You read the bylaws, it's clear it's supposed to look like an accessory structure, and to me, this has the feeling of a second single-family dwelling. And I think the bylaw, I understand that the purposes, the objectives are being satisfied, but I do think that there needs to be some change in terms of design to satisfy that requirement, and I know the planning board's working on it, but I don't think it's just about, the terminology that was just used was quaint aesthetic. It's to maintain the appearance of a single-family neighborhood, not to have two, apparent single-family dwellings on a lot, and I just think that there does need to be some treatment of that design. And the other concern I have is just that this is going to expand. There's a bathroom, and I know that we can condition it, but there's a second bathroom in the basement, or a proposed second bathroom in the future. There's now a proposed slider. It just seems like that's becoming possibly habitable space down the line, so. And I know we can condition it, but it's hard to, it doesn't have the feel of an accessory apartment in an accessory structure.
Well, I think that's why they redid it based on, and they haven't had much dialogue with the planning board. They had one hearing.
Yeah. Well, that's why.
But that's why they changed it to shingles and did the green trim to tie in with the single-family dwelling. The board, if they do approve it, can also deed restrict it to where it's no habitable space or finished basement. I understand the light issue, 'cause
bylaw
it's really wooded.
appearance of garage or barn is the language, and that's
Well,
an
that's a
accessory
design standard, and
structure.
it doesn't allow for anybody to create a new structure. If you read that, and this is why this bylaw is under review by a committee, because it's just something that's not fitting in, and what most people in the town understood what the bylaw was going to allow them.
Mhm.
So this, unfortunately, this is caught up in, review of this bylaw, but I think the intent and the purpose, we're not the design standard review board, and they are if you read the letter from the planning board,
Yeah.
I think the things that they did, and you'll have to wait for the site plan review decision anyway, they did tie it in as best they could. I mean, it's not a garage. They're constructing I mean, what do you want? Do you want them to construct a garage with a
No.
garage door as a
No,
phony
I mean-
facade? I mean,
No, but I also think.
and I'm not saying that to be
No, I
argumentative.
know.
It's the way the bylaw reads. It doesn't make sense in some portions.
Right, but I also think, I hesitate with this, and I know it's going to change, because it has the appearance of a second single-family dwelling on the property. It doesn't have the appearance of an accessory, that's just my
But
opinion.
that's what the special permit is about. The
Yeah.
special permit, the square footage, the percentage
Yeah.
of the family dwelling, that's what all ties
Right.
into it being an accessory.
Right.
And again, you could deed restrict it to
Right.
be accessory only to the primary. They're not renting it out, and you could condition that as well, because this is for family, and in the future, if they do rent it out, it has to be owner occupied, which is one of the conditions as well.
And I don't think this property could be split into two separate in the future.
They don't have enough frontage.
No.
Not enough
I mean, I
lots.
think, I understand what Kimberly's saying, but, I think it actually is quite nice, in my view.
I'm not sure you can see it from the street.
You can't, sorry.
Good.
Am I allowed to?
Sure.
Okay, we did meet with Corey in the planning board this afternoon, and his suggestion to us, which, it's not our first choice, but certainly we'll do it if need be, so we wanted to see what this board was, what their feeling was. Corey's suggestion was for us to rotate the building 90 degrees, put it at the end of the driveway, and put fake garage doors on it so that it would look like a garage.
So you drive the driveway into the garage, and so it would look like a garage.
His feeling was that that would be more accepted by the planning board, and certainly we can do that. My initial thought on that, though, and I really don't know how you view this, but we're in a cul-de-sac. No one is going to see this house from here. If we rotate this, Mr. Leary's house is here, he's going to be looking at the long side of it. So it seems as though it would have more of an impact on, although Mr. Leary doesn't actively live in this house, but even still, that's my thought. We'll do whatever needs to happen with this.
I had a
Well,
question.
And I think I'll just jump in. So I think what you've presented is nice. I just tend to be kind of strict in interpreting the bylaw, I guess, and I want to make sure it looks like an accessory apartment. So it sounds like the planning board is trying to address that.
Yes.
And certainly when you come back with the proposal, it'll probably be changed. And so then I think, but I just wanted to express to the board in kind of board discussion, and to make you aware that this is something that I think is a concern from my perspective.
Clarification. Is a site plan review from the board? So they don't actually, what's the planning board going to do? Are they going to approve it?
There's site plan review and design review under the bylaw.
So they accept it, can they deny it?
A site plan review is generally not denied. They work with the applicant to get it, and then they write to this board their concerns.
I think, and I don't
Nothing's enforceable
necessarily,
through site plan review.
I don't necessarily think you should put the fake garage structure on it, given what you're going to do to the
That's-
property.
That's something you should just.
Well, I
discuss
guess, I'm
with the board.
sorry, I'm speaking to the other members
Because
of the
they
board.
said they're going to do with the planning board, but that's something that.
But they
the
also
board-
said subject to what they thought we wanted. And I don't think we've heard
Well-
from other people.
So the planning board's making recommendations as to their proposal, and they supply that to the board?
They will, that's why you have to continue it, because you have
Right.
not
All right,
received site
so,
plan review, and according to the bylaw,
All right,
that
so
goes
they,
first.
all right, pardon my ignorance, but so they have not been to the planning board
They
yet?
have.
Okay, all right, so the planning
They
board,
closed the hearing,
all right.
but
So was
They've
the
got a
planning
draft
board happy
decision.
with the design?
not according to their
Okay.
concerns.
All
They're
right, then
working
that's-
with them on it.
And that's,
Can I
think
just say
that's-
one thing, though? It was not this design. This is a
Right, this is
redesign.
Okay, all right, I
This
got
is
you.
the design in response to the concerns they
got
raised
you,
at
all
the
right.
original meeting. But we have another meeting on March 13th to
Okay,
get a decision.
I guess.
All right, so it's a work in progress.
Attorney Clower, we did hear from the public, but since you were raising your hand in the corner.
You're not on the clock.
I'm not on the clock. I'm not speaking in a
You're on the
representative.
clock for somebody else.
I'm not speaking in a representative capacity. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower, and I'm speaking as a resident of the town of Falmouth. I think that we're in a situation where we look at the spirit and the letter of the bylaw, and I think that we have to look at the intent, which has been discussed heavily. One of the concerns I heard mentioned was the appearance of the building as a single-family residence, but then I've heard the board agree that you can't see it from the street, so the appearance is still a single-family residence, whether or not it's built like this or built as a fake garage, which seems a foolish step for someone to have to take. So I think that the board could conceivably work with the newly proposed plans that the applicants put forward in a way that honors the intent and spirit of the bylaw. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll respond to Kevin's. I agree that putting, fake garage doors might not be, makes sense from my perspective, obviously what the planning board requires them to do. I think I just need to kind of sit on this too. I'm concerned about the unfinished space in the basement and the floor area. To me, because how we've seen these is a garage with a portion of the garage an accessory apartment. This is an accessory.
Well, this is a new bylaw that
Right.
allows detached structures, and this is the first one you've had outside of two existing garages and barns.
Yeah, and we're gonna,
We will need to condition it because of the square footage, but would a deed restriction alleviate your concerns?
Well, I think certainly a deed restriction wouldn't hurt, but the special permit has to be recorded anyways.
Right.
So.
But, the deed restriction adds a little in the event
Yeah.
the property's ever conveyed, or in the event that there's a complaint from a neighbor or anything.
All right. And I'm but one member. I don't know, does anybody else have, I just kind of wanted to have a discussion about.
I had another question, because I had the wrong reference. I won't say where I got it from, sorry.
Well, you just did, basically, Jerry. Hello.
This is not necessarily going to be affordable, so they don't have to meet.
No.
It's
No,
not
okay.
affordable.
And what did I cite incorrectly?
No, I picked this up. Never mind, I'll let you know where I picked it up.
Okay, you do that.
The only other issue I would look at is that on the cutout is that it is only open on one side. So some kind of condition that they would not be able to enclose it in, because then again, it changes your,
That's always a condition.
Yes, square footage,
You have to-
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's just some stuff to look at. I do agree that the spirit is met, it's just a matter of some of the design portions.
So they got, they're meeting with the planning board on the 13th.
Oh, I can't be here on the 15th.
when, March 15th?
Are you kidding me? That's, okay,
No, I'm
unless
not
it's being
kidding you.
continued. And you weren't here for Montauk, so. And Climate Foundation? Wow.
I can't be here.
The Climate
I
Foundation.
have a work event.
Still hanging around.
Well, I can't do it any other date, as you can see.
So then that would mean Robert and Jerry could sit on it.
Yeah, you two would have to be the but they're both here,
Yeah.
and they've seen the,
You might be happy to not have me sit on it, so that's. But I really can't be here, so I
can't.
No,
March
I have
15th?
yeah, I have a work event that night that I can't miss.
So I recommend to the board that you continue it to March 15th. Otherwise, it's going to be May before we can do this. I'm sorry, you've got the calendar in front of you. I already gave up one vacation. I'm not giving up another.
I'm okay with it. Well, we'll still have a quorum, right?
Right.
You will, as long as all the other members that are here tonight show.
so why don't we stick with the 15th?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Are you
probably better for the
available March
applicant.
15th?
Yes, we are. And I assume that someone will tell us what we need to do between now and then.
The planning board will pretty much dictate that. If I have any
Okay.
questions or concerns from the board, sent to me, I will email them, but take into consideration what they've said tonight. and
Absolutely.
Deal with those.
And the fact that the meeting with the planning board is the 13th will give you enough time to get the information you need from them? by the 15th?
Yeah, they usually give that decision that night.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like we're continuing to the 15th. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to continue
4/18.
00418 to the 15th of March.
Second.
6:30 here at Town Hall?
Yes.
All
Unless
right.
you want to do it at 7, holy crow. At 6, continue this one at 6 because you've got,
Yeah, 6 would be all right.
Is everyone available at 6?
6 is okay with me.
6 is all
I'm
right.
fine with 6.
Paul?
Yeah, I'll just go to the gym early.
Good. Shower first.
Glad you're
Yes.
healthy.
Yeah.
So we'll put them at 6 PM,
Okay.
and the other ones will be at 6:30.
What's
Okay.
the,
Okay, motion was made by Ed, and did I hear a
because
second?
you won't have
Somebody
climate,
second
right?
it.
Yeah.
A second.
Paul? Okay.
I will have climate.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Can I see the thing?
And the other one, it doesn't matter, but, and then the other one will not. Because that's gonna move. It's okay, but we'll just be over.
They may continue it if she's not here, because then that leaves them 4. That's something I'll work on, that has nothing to do with the Mezzers.
Up next, we have application 5-18, T-Ticket Car Wash, 187 T-Ticket Highway and T-Ticket. Special permit to raise existing structure and construct a commercial car wash.
Being all do you want to say who's sitting on it?
Oh, yes, Bob will be sitting on this. Thank you, Kim.
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that T-Ticket Car Wash LLC of Winchester, Massachusetts, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-3C and 240-51B3 of the Code of Falmouth to raise the existing structure and construct a commercial car wash on subject property known as 187 T-Ticket Highway, T-Ticket, Massachusetts. And for referrals. Engineering, see attached site plan review, and it covers a number of areas, including sewage, water, parking and access, grading and drainage, and then there's some general comments. Fire department, no comment. Water, service number 309 off the 8-inch 1899 CI main. What is anticipated water usage? Reuse. Existing service appears to be 1 inch and can only provide 3 GPM. Plan of proposed water service and application for backflow prevention at DPW, water required. Okay. Assessors had no comment. Planning, the applicant filed a site plan review application with the planning board and is on the February 13th agenda, and we did receive the site plan review decision today. It's dated February 28th, 2018. And that is all we have.
Okay. And for the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ahmet Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I represent the applicant T-Ticket Car Wash LLC. I'm joined tonight by Matt Traffy of the Arlen Company, who is the designer on this project. As mentioned, I represent T-Ticket Car Wash LLC, who is the holder of a leasehold interest in the property at 187 T-Ticket Highway. It's located on Route 28 in East Falmouth, almost directly across from the Cumberland Farms. It's on a lot of 24,200 square feet and is located in the Business 2 zoning district. Presently, this lot has a 1,900 square foot, one-story building. This building has been home to a number of uses over the years. Most recently, it was Tina's Ice Cream. Prior to that, it's been a Quiznos, a Honeydew Donuts, a KFC. It was approved as a Jiffy Lube about 10 years ago, though that never came to fruition. The current lot coverage by structure is 7.4%, and the lot is non-conforming. It's non-conforming to the side yard setback, being 9.1 feet to the shed, and the building is 9.2 feet, in both cases where 10 feet is required. In addition, The lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking is 73.6%, where 70% is allowed. The applicant's proposing to raise the existing non-conforming building and to replace it with a new automated car wash. The proposed building would be 3,269 square feet, which would constitute 13.5% lot coverage by structure. It would meet all of the applicable setback requirements, and the lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking would be reduced by 72.3%, a reduction of approximately 300 feet. This proposal does require a special permit from this board under sections 240-3 and 240-51B3. 243C states that pre-existing non-conforming structures may be changed by special permit, provided they're not substantially more detrimental than what currently exists. The board is asked to consider the standards of 240-216 and whether or not the alteration creates a new dimensional nonconformity, impairs views of vistas, and reasonably conforms to the average dimensions in the neighborhood. This proposal eliminates one of the existing nonconformities and improves the other. The side yard nonconformity is done away with. And again, as I mentioned, the lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking is reduced by 1.3% to 72.3%. The proposed lot coverage by structure will be 13.5%, which is well below the 20% that is allowed by right. This project is not substantially more detrimental than what exists based on these standards. There's no new dimensional nonconformities. There's no impairment of views of vistas, and it's in line with the surrounding properties and business development, as well as the long-term proposed redevelopment of this area of town. The applicant and designer have gone to great length to design a building that fits in with the area, both the existing structures and the recently improved structures. Specifically, I'm thinking of the Cumberland Farms across the street. As I mentioned, this also requires a special permit under 240-51B3, which allows the VA to grant a special permit for motor vehicle service stations in the Business 2 zoning district. Motor vehicle service stations are defined in section 240-6 to include premises devoted to the washing of motor vehicles. This special permit may be granted that the applicant is not within 50 feet of a residential district, or 300 feet of a school, library, church, or institution for the sick, dependent, or children under 16 years of age. This project is not within 50 feet of a residential district, or within 300 feet of the other criteria. The surrounding area is not adversely affected by this. This project has been reviewed and approved by the planning board under their site plan review. That decision came down on Tuesday evening. Sarita, did they provide you with a copy of the decision?
We got it today.
Okay, I have 6 copies if you need me to submit them. Okay.
I think I forwarded.
We have proposed 12 parking spaces on the site. Some of these parking spaces double as vacuum spaces, but given the nature of the property, it's not a situation where you need a lot of parking spaces. Most people will not be getting out of their car unless they're vacuuming. As to traffic, I'd like to note that any impact on traffic is minimal at best due to the location of the property on a busy thoroughfare and the fact that the proposed use has essentially the same traffic generation as the previous use as a fast food restaurant. This project is on the Little Pond Sewer District. We are aware of Ms. Lowell's referral to the board and of our need for a variance from the Board of Selectmen under the flow neutral sewer bylaw. We are in the midst of preparing and submitting that application to the Board of Selectmen. This application will use the existing curb cut without modification to the opening within the road. The project's been designed for clear traffic flow around the building. We've set up 2 payment stations in the queue area, and that queue area is large enough to accommodate the stacking of nearly 20 cars. That is not anticipated as a need. It has been over-designed to prevent the potential of a backup towards 28. We believe this is a good and appropriate development for the site. We believe it's a drastic improvement to the existing conditions. It's in line with the Business 2 district and this site's past approvals and uses. In addition, it meets the requirements for special permits under 243, 240-51B3, and 240-16. For these reasons and given these considerations, I would ask that you grant this special permit. I'd be happy to address any questions that you may have at this time.
Bob, do you have any questions?
Could you just take us through, I know there's 2 pay stations, so is the one on the right just for vacuums?
No, I mean, vacuums would be coin-operated, so if you'd come in, if you wanted to go to the vacuum, you would turn to the left. One of the conditions the planning board required is appropriate signage saying vacuums one direction, car wash the other direction.
So I drove around the site looking at whatever marks that they had there now. On that second pay station location, what are you doing with the guy pole?
That is noted,
Because the guy pole that's there now is actually in lawn space, but I noticed out here it's in the pavement.
I think we're within the same lawn space.
On the landscape plan, it shows it's in the pavement, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, so the guy pole is noted here at the edge of the pavement and lawn.
And it just seems a weird spot driving a car that you're right against the pole.
The width there is
It's really short for what's shown on site.
about 10 feet. I suppose the guy pole would be relocated if it needed to be. It would be relocated onto the lawn if it needed to be.
So if I want to let's say I just want to use the vacuuming, I would then turn in and go left?
Yes.
So if I'm coming out of the exit, and I pull out of the exit, I went by my car length, but was there yesterday, and I'm almost in the oncoming entrance traffic.
So one car length is typically 15 feet, give or take. And I don't have a scale with me, and I apologize. But this is,
Because you've
that
also
would bring you just slightly past the curve for the landscape edge there.
That's what I mean, so when you're coming in the other side, because you've actually constricted the current curb cut, you're closing it, you're
No,
making it smaller.
nothing's happening within the street layout here. The only change is really, if you take a look, it's being lengthened a little bit, but the width remains exactly the same.
Okay, so if you look at maybe the confusion then is on that landscaping plan. On that landscaping plan, it shows that the landscaping is now further over from where the other plan is showing. See that where you have the entrance, you can see the two lines.
Referring to this,
So that first line is where it is now, the second line is what they're proposed.
so that's a 30-foot opening. And I knew I would want to scale, but I did not bring one. If the engineer was here, I'd be being yelled at right now. This shows a 30-foot curb cut here on the
So
existing.
what is,
And that's what we're proposing as well, is a 30-foot curb cut. Because we're not changing the curb cut, the width of the opening very purposely, because it would require DOT approval.
no, I understand that, that's what I'm saying. If you look on the plan where it says R equals, 20 feet on that first side, and then you see green space and another line, that other line is where the current green space is when you're on the site.
I'm not following.
Front entrance,
On this side?
that plan, front entrance.
Yes.
So, bottom corner, right there. See where it says R20 right at the very beginning?
Right here. I thought you were talking.
No, that's fine. And then go down, and you'll see another line.
Sure.
That other line is currently where the green space is now. That span is currently paving.
But I think what we're showing here is the same width remaining, 30 feet.
You're talking turning radius?
I'm talking turning radius at the entrance, yeah, because
Okay.
you're actually, my worry driving in and out, trying to drive around in and out, is that when you're turning in from that southerly side, you are turning directly into the exiting traffic from that
You're coming in this way?
car wash. Yeah,
Sure.
you're turning right into them. And then if you come out of the car wash and let's say you decide, now I want to vacuum my car, now I have to take a quick right. It just seems very confusing there. Is there a reason they didn't situate the building, it's a brand-new building, moved over more on the lot?
I think when you look at the space that we needed to have for, we need to have the double car width down here, which was addressed, and they wanted to have the appropriate width up here, which was addressed. And we also didn't want to increase the lot coverage by structured paving and parking in any amount. So I think that's what led to the location of the building being where it is.
So I haven't seen the planning board decision. If I'm turning in there, is there signage at the entrance?
The signage is going to be located at the end of the island here and on the building.
To direct Vax the other side? Because if I'm going in, I'm turning right. And
So if
now
you're-
I'm in
if
a
you're-
queue line.
Exactly, and then you can go through the queue line without going through the car wash, which is why we have the access in the
I just
back.
have to wait for whoever's in front of me that might be going through the car wash. So it just seems a little odd that you'd actually be creating more of a backup than you would need. Because it's very difficult getting out on that main road in that section.
Well, we do have, there are 2 turning lanes coming out. So it's 1 lane coming in, 2 lanes coming out.
From the other side.
So-
So if I'm coming out the car wash at the exit, I have to come straight
You either
and then I have to
go, there's a
turn,
left-hand turn,
but I have to come out straight and then I have to angle myself to get out of the oncoming traffic.
yeah.
So wouldn't it make sense to situate the building so I'm coming straight out and I'm not interfering in anybody turning in?
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I think there's a rationale for why the building's located.
That's what I was just wondering. So if at some point you can just find out what the rationale
happy
is to
to.
let me know, then I can understand what it
I'd be
is.
happy to.
And then just again on the guide pole, just how they're handling that on that side. I know that their right pay lane marker came loose, so I couldn't find the exact location of that one, but.
The problem with a paved lot.
Yeah, I mean, I found all the other ones. I
Yeah.
found all the exits and entrances. And then on the recycled water, how
It
much
is-
of that does get discharged back? I mean,
It is, it's 83 gallons per car, of which 62 are reclaimed. There's 6%, there's a 6 gallon per wash loss/evaporation, and then 15 are processed through the sewer.
And I've never been at a car wash that has this type of vacuum.
It's a unique vacuum.
Yeah, can you describe, I mean, just pulling in, or, I mean, are those hoses automatically connected all the time, so someone's not gonna leave a hose down, and now you've got a,
That's correct.
do they ever, I know the ones they're showing on here are open, do they ever enclose them at all at the top? Do they add roof lines? Or they plan on just keeping them open?
We plan on keeping them open.
All right, that's all I have right now.
No, I just have a question. Is it staffed or is it automatic?
It is staffed. I believe there's 2 employees working at any given time. But it is an automated car wash, so, you come in, someone will be located at the front.
At the entrance?
At the entrance.
Whatever. Okay, yeah, that's all I wanted to know.
How long does it take to go through from the time you stop to pay till you go through?
Minute and a half approximately,
Is it all?
from start to finish of the wash, from when you pull into the.
Pay, it would be longer.
Yeah, from pay, it's a little bit longer, but from the moment you pull the car into the wash to the moment you exit, it's a minute and a half.
Minute and a half. Wow.
I think from the time you pay, it would end up
If,
between 3 and 4.
Yes.
if you'd like to speak, you can come up and give your name.
I'm Matt Traffy with Arlen Company. I've worked on quite a few of these to develop the plans, so I know quite a bit about it. But from the time you pay, there's going to be a couple cars in front of you. But by the time you pay and get into the wash and get out the other end, it's going to be somewhere around 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, that's what.
And I saw some eyebrows raised regarding the timing. What's important to realize about it is it's essentially, it's a mostly closed loop system, so most of the water will be in the system already. There's not much coming in on a permanent basis, because I know that one of the comments was there's a 3 gallon permanent flow, but it is largely a closed loop system. The 15 gallons to the sewer is what would be processed through the chambers. What's discharged is actually incredibly clean water, because it goes through a 5-chamber system.
Yeah, it goes through 6 chambers.
It's 15 gallons per car.
Correct.
Yeah. No, I still had concerns the same as Bob did with the traffic pattern.
Any other questions, Ed?
No, that's for now.
Kim?
Yes, so I just want to point out, Suri asked me to, that there was no comment from Amy Lowell. There was a submission from Virginia Valiela.
There was a email sent.
I haven't received it.
Okay.
Maybe, was that in connection with the planning board hearing, perhaps? No?
I haven't received anything from Amy, only a message that she was unavailable for,
Okay.
I don't know how long, but I haven't received anything at all.
I had received an email, and I must have been mistaken as to who I received it from. However, this project does require a variance from the Board of Selectmen under the flow neutral sewer bylaw.
Okay.
If you could forward that email to me, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay.
Unless it came in late today?
I'll check later.
Okay.
It was not today.
Okay. I have not received it.
Okay, so to start, I'll echo the concerns about that front kind of conflict area. I don't know if it would be helpful to add an island or something, but it seems like you might need to go to Mass DOT to do something with your entryway there. Okay, is the garage door closed during the wash?
No.
Open, okay. Is there any type of noise mitigation provided?
I'm not sure how much noise is generated.
I've been to automatic car washes. There's noise generated.
The biggest noise is generated by the dryers.
Mhm.
We have some more modern dryers that are very quiet. We have a site in Nashua that is like maybe 50 feet from an apartment building in the back, and there's no complaints whatsoever.
Okay. But so when those dryers are going off, the garage door is open?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the proposed hours of operation?
The applicant would probably ask for 8 to 8, but I'm not sure what, I think that's probably the outside edges of what he would actually use, but would want the latitude.
Okay. The landscaping that's proposed here, was there any further consideration given to some buffering plants along that southern property edge since you abut residential property?
There is a fence there, and there are some arborvitaes planted along the eastern and western sides. The landscaping edge doesn't provide a lot of room for planting additional ones during that middle stretch.
Perhaps that could just be reviewed. How many vacuum stations?
8.
How many? I didn't hear that.
8. And then is the parking along the, I guess it's the northerly fence, I saw 2 spaces, is that employee parking or is that intended to be real parking?
It could be employee parking. I think would request that employees park up there. In addition, this is a non-vacuum spot and this is a handicap spot. So this, we have been asked by the planning board to add a bike rack for employee travels as well, which we're happy to do.
2 non-vac plus 2 other non-vac. And then there's solar panels on the roof?
Correct, on the southern facing side.
How often would the dumpster be emptied?
As needed, certainly. I say that not to be flip. I would say at least once, if not twice a week, depending on the need for it.
Well, are there going to be like waste bins provided for people cleaning out their car on site?
Yeah, there is a waste bin. Excuse me. There's a waste built into the back island.
And then it would be anticipated that the employees then would change it out, dump it in the rear. Okay. Is the dumpster, I saw a fence around, is that stockade fence?
Yeah, the dumpster's enclosed.
Okay, that's all I have.
Jerry, any questions?
If I remember correctly, the person stays in the car and
Yeah.
travels with the car.
Yeah.
And although it's not our purview, did Amy say there was existing capacity and you're exceeding what was on the lot before?
I know what was on the, I did the math to calculate what the flow would be for a 30-seat fast food restaurant, which would be 10,050 gallons per day.
And what do you need?
I think we're at 2,300.
So even at 110 gallons per day from the square footage, which is a new development calculation under the bylaw.
That's bedrooms.
Yeah,
No, I
110
think,
per day is a bedroom.
It's
And this isn't in our.
new development. Well, it was curiosity, but you're going for variance, and Amy
I
has
haven't,
said there's
heard-
capacity.
I've requested from Amy whether or not there is capacity. I have not heard back yet. I think she's been out most of this week.
Okay, I mean, thank you.
All set, Chair?
Yes.
There's a right-of-way on the northern side of the property. Could you comment on what that right-of-way is for? And it looks like the proposed dumpster is encroaching upon that right-of-way.
Not really.
Okay.
I've done the title to this property. There's nothing in the title examination referencing the right-of-way. There is one plan from the mid-'60s that references a 4-foot right-of-way leading to what was then a residential lot. That lot is now, since became a driving range and then public space. There's no deed of it and just one plan that referenced it. Mike included it on his plan in order to be thorough, but there's nothing noting the grant of that right-of-way at any point. The existing dumpster is located in that same location, which is part of why we kept it there, including with that same encroachment. I don't believe that there's anyone actually entitled to the right-of-way. Even if it was granted for access for residential purposes, I think the change in use of the property would be an overburdenment of that easement, but now we're getting down the rabbit hole.
Okay. And on my site visit, took a look at the property, and I found the stakes marking the end of the building towards 28. And I drive a mid-sized truck, so what I did was I parked it at the very edge of where the end of the building was marked. So I'll just echo what I've heard from the rest of the board. It is a tight space, and I don't know if there's anything you can do about it, repositioning the building or maybe getting a larger curb cut, because with the lanes of traffic and the directions, there's a lot going on there with the potential of cars coming in and out. And I'm also wondering if someone could, if they come out and take that right to the vacuum side, I'm not sure if the turning radius there.
Into traffic.
Into the traffic that would be coming out of the vacuum area. So just notes of concern.
Certainly. I think it's important to note, you're not going to be coming out necessarily up against the landscaping. You'd probably be
Right.
coming out centrally, so I think it's not as drastic of a turn as one might imagine. This is 22 feet wide, which is a pretty substantial width. So I think that there's likely enough room to accommodate that, but we're happy to take a look at it.
If you come out centrally, that's what makes it worse for the people entering the building. That's the problem that I had. When I parked there coming out centrally, I was maybe a car length and a half from on the road.
So it would be, and just to note, it's this area here that we're central
Yeah.
to, so.
If you come straight out there and just, go park there.
Oh, yeah.
And you're directly in the oncoming lane. That's why I just didn't understand why they didn't, that's why I didn't understand why they're enclosing the curb cut. Because it would have been better to leave it wider. And I just had one other question about on the northerly side. So it shows a chain link fence and a stockade fence. Is that fencing from this property, or is that fencing for the park because it's on the park side?
That's always a million-dollar question when dealing with fences. Who does the fence belong to?
So let's say it's not yours. What are you planning for screening on the park side? Because that's where you have all the vacuums.
So you do have arborvitae's located here. You do have the stockade fence located here.
But is the stockade fence on this property?
It's located slightly off the property, but again, I don't know if that means it's
So
ours
they may
and
want to
encroaching.
consider some kind of solid fencing because the noise from those vacuums for anyone that's going to be in the park. I know there's a few arborvitae's there, but I mean, you've got, what, 15, maybe 15 feet or more between them? So they're really not gonna screen much. There is no, I know you show arborvitae's on the other side, but it says 4, so I'll assume there's 4 there. I didn't see 4 there, but I don't see how you can plant anything on the southerly side in that little grass strip. Because they're decreasing the current grass strip on the southerly side from what currently exists. And that's why the guide pole is now in concrete. Because the guide pole right now has at least...
It does narrow through.
Where
so-
your guide pole is on that, you've got probably at least 2 feet of grass before you hit pavement. And on that, it's in the pavement. So I don't know if there was just an error maybe on a calculation or what's off. Because there's another telephone pole on that same side, closer to the street. So they may just want to look at that, because the other one isn't shown on the plan. I mean, I have photos of the site if you want to look at them at some point.
I'm not doubting you, I'm just looking.
Is this a standard size kind of equipment thing, or is there a way to make the building smaller? Because I think the kind of constraints are the fact that it's a small lot and you're trying to fit this on.
No, this is pretty much a standard size.
Yeah.
It's actually shortened from a big tunnel.
Okay.
But as far as the lot layout, this was done by a national car wash supplier company, and they've done thousands of these. The basic layout came from their design department.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For some reason, there's something off on the measurements by the photos and when you do the site visit.
Yeah.
Even when you go by the marks that they have set there out there, it just doesn't add up when you're on that, especially on that southerly side. Is the I know you have a dumpster there, so when you vacuum your cars, you want some kind of waste receptacle right at that. So are the waste receptacles there?
That was, yeah, we addressed that. That there was waste built into the
Vacuum.
front island.
And the attendants take it to the dumpster.
Jerry, I think you had another question?
Yeah, when you had raised that this is a standard design, I have used car washes where they're a little more than a car width, a car length long.
Yeah.
You go, the door opens, you drive in, it shuts at the other end, you wash it and come out. Had you looked into that, or is this what it would shut the building by half of that distance?
No, the problem with that is, for this site, it'd be hard to justify the expenditure for, even if we did 2 bays with that short automatic wash.
Mhm.
Is it?
I think when you...
You've looked into it, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, the wash moves, not the
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
I think when you see those, they're typically a part of a larger complex, larger gas station or...
You was at an Air Force base?
Yeah.
I haven't been to that one.
Any other questions from the board? No. Turn it over to the public, I guess. Anyone like to speak about the project?
My name is Leonard Johnson. I am a board member and past president of the 300 Committee. We abut on the north side and on the east side. And I am pretty sure, I may be wrong, but that stockade fence is not on our property. It may be there now because it's fallen over, but it's not, originally was not on our property. Okay, I do think that this proposal is more detrimental to the neighborhood. I'm going to start by talking a bit about why the 300 Committee and the T-Ticket Civic Association wanted to preserve the area that is now known as T-Ticket Park as open space. It protects a wetland. That stream goes on down all the way down into Little Pond. This is the most congested area of town from the standpoint of housing and from the standpoint of commercial activity. And that was clearly documented when we applied to the state for our grant that helped us purchase this property. We had broad support for this project all over town. We worked with the T-Ticket Civic Association. They had hoped to be here tonight. Mary Little wanted to speak tonight, and I hope that you will continue this so that Mary and the other members of the association could be heard. We had a unanimous vote at town meeting. And those of you who know what goes on at town meeting, that's rather remarkable. So the funding came from the town Community Preservation Committee, $250,000. The state granted their maximum grant to preserve open space, which is at that time, which was $500,000. We raised $1.6 million privately in order to make this purchase and to provide for the restoration. We had, I think it's a record for us, 450 donors contributed to this project. So it is owned by the 300 Committee. The Conservation Commission holds a conservation restriction on the property. We have spent a good deal of time, money, and effort restoring the property. As you know, it was a driving range. We had to reduce the grade in front. Lawrence Lynch reduced the grade in the front of the property. It is handicapped accessible, so we had to abide by those requirements. We have created the park itself and the habitat for birds. The birds are beginning to nest in that area. We have some boxes for kestrels, and they're beginning to nest in that area. We've had several phases in the restoration plan, putting in the paths, extensive path network. We restored elms in that area. Those of you with a long history in the town may remember that there were elms along T-Ticket Highway in the old days, and the elms did not die of elm disease. They were taken out by the state when they widened Route 28. So we put in, I would guess, about 50 trees. Susie, is that about right? And about 30 elm trees, and I can tell you that the elm trees are thriving. So we have another aspect of this project, which is the outdoor classroom that we are going to build in the northeast corner, which abuts T-Ticket School. We've worked extensively with the school and have a plan that we hope finally to complete this spring.
If I could interrupt you for just a moment.
Yeah.
Everyone on the board, we are very familiar with T-Ticket Park and what you've been doing there, but do you have any comments specifically about this application, this project?
I most certainly do.
Okay.
Okay. We are concerned about the noise and the traffic. Let me talk about the traffic to begin with. We all know that this is the most congested highway in town. The addition of the Cumberland Farms across the street has added a lot of traffic in this immediate area. If they're, I'm not a traffic engineer. If they're 20 visits an hour, that means there are 40 cars going in and out of here every hour. I said 10 hours of operation. It's 400 cars going in and out of this location every day. That's a huge, I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm just a back of the envelope calculation. But combined with Cumberland Farms, I can tell you getting in and out of T-Ticket Park, it is not easy. It'll take you 3 or 4 minutes on occasion to get out of there. So it's going to make, in my view, a bad traffic situation even worse. There are issues about noise. I'm somewhat appalled that there are going to be 8 vacuums. They are noisy. So there are issues about noise. So we urge you not to approve this application. If you, however, disagree with us and decide that you are going to approve it, I think that there are major mitigation that needs to be made for the noise. I think you were talking about, we believe that there should be acoustical covers on the vacuums. I think 8 vacuums is going to create a tremendous racket And the birds we're trying to get to nest in that area do not like that kind of noise. And don't even know about the dryers. But I hope that you can put acoustical covers on those vacuums, reduce the number of vacuums, and that you enclose them in a structure so it has a roof on it and 3 sides to mitigate the noise. In addition, as far as the noise is concerned, I would hope that you would require that there be a stockade fence, certainly all around our property, and I would think probably on the south side too, but that's not my domain. But I think an 8-foot stockade fence would make a lot of sense. And I think you need evergreens up against that fence, maybe 6, okay? 6, 8, whatever it is. But there's going to be a lot of noise from this, and I think you need some evergreens to mitigate the noise as well. Trees as a sound buffer. I hope that they're going to do what they say about the water and the soap and keeping it inside the structure. That would be unique for me. I go to the other car washes in this location, one in a town north of us, and the soap and everything is on the outside of the building. And I know it's supposedly illegal, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody doesn't do it. This is significant wetland and T-Ticket Park, and we need to make sure that gets preserved. So I think I have shot my bolt. Susie, do you want to add? This is Suzanne Goodman-Hallstein, also a board member and past president of the 300 Committee.
And we normally hold people to 2 minutes for public comment, so I allowed you to elaborate a little bit, which is fine, but.
Applicant had lots of time.
I am concerned about the water recharge into the pond area.
Could you state your name for the
Oh,
record,
I'm sorry.
please?
I'm Suzanne Goodman-Hallstein. I'm on the board of the 300 Committee and former teacher in town. I'm really concerned about the water runoff. I use car washes. I know where it's not always perfect, and I've used the type that this is going to be up in Maine a number of times. There's water everywhere. The other thing I'm concerned about is we've really tried to keep this area of T-Ticket Park really clean. It is really immaculate. And when I go to car washes, I have to say I'm a little concerned about all the debris that is around, trash out of the trash cans, junk everywhere. So that concerns me because it is a beautiful spot for the town of Falmouth. We picked T-Ticket Park specifically because they needed a visual rest, and the whole place needs to be preserved for beauty and nature. And so the water and the trash and garbage containment, to say nothing of the, noise mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to comment? All right. Attorney Clower?
I did have a clarifying question to both Mr. Johnson and Ms. Goodman-Hallstein. Are you speaking on behalf of the 300 Committee, or?
Yes.
Okay. As to the traffic concerns, using the ITE trip generation manual, a fast food restaurant without a drive-through generates 26.15 trips an hour, which is 13 cars. It's one trip is a car in and a car out. One car is 2 trips, so it's 13 cars. The manual suggests an automated car wash generates 14.12 trips per hour per 1,000 square feet, which puts us at 28.24 trips per hour, which is 14 cars. So using the 2,000 square feet of the car wash itself, that's a car difference. I don't think that we're looking at a substantial change in the traffic from the permitted use of this as a fast food restaurant. As to the acoustical covers, I'd have to speak with the applicant. I think that it becomes difficult given the design of the property that the planning board is looking for from a design standpoint. We've designed this building very specifically to be in line with what the planning board has been looking for historically over the past few years in the redevelopment of this district. As to the water runoff concerns, I think we've tried to address those. We did submit a plan to the board this week, which does show the drainage within the building, to show that the water is gathered within the building and funneled back towards the holding tanks towards the front of the building. Beyond that, I think the board's made it clear what they're looking for or have questions about, so we have some information to gather for you. Unless you have other questions based upon the public comments.
Let's check. And anyone have additional questions?
I had one. Are you amenable to planting the trees along the fence line that borders the 300 committee as a mitigation measure for sound?
Am I personally? Sure. But
Well, as the applicant.
Yeah, I have to speak with my client. I think theoretically.
Well, I understand, Sari, but I'd like to know if the applicant is willing.
I'd have to discuss with my client. I haven't had the chance to do so yet. But seems like a reasonable request.
I think, Jerry, just to jump for board discussion, I think my request was that they plant a number of trees along the property boundary. So I am hoping that that's addressed in the next plan.
Okay.
Since you look like you may be coming back,
I gathered that.
is there any way to try to estimate what the sound could be at the border, at the property line?
Yeah, as far as the equipment, they have sound graphs that they've done on other sites. And with the modern equipment, I can tell you the noise level is down a lot from even the last 7 years.
Could you submit a number, like it's going
Yeah,
to be 40 decibels? Or
Yeah, they'll show it in decibels.
for both the dryer and the
Dryer,
vacuum?
Yeah, the entrance to the car wash, the exit, and the noise from the vacuums.
At close proximity of the property line, I'm not sure.
We can go we can estimate it at the property line or
I think it'd be useful.
at
I
the
don't know if
back end of the car,
Yeah.
like 20 feet out. So they have studies on that already.
Okay, thank you.
Any other additional questions from the board?
You want to look at a continuation date?
What would we be,
I want to sit on this, the
Looking for-
29th,
No, I can't do it the 29th. You have a 40B.
April 5th.
April 5th is what I have down. That's okay with the board.
I might have something
April
going
5th.
on that night, too.
April 5th?
I might have something going on that night.
What do you mean, April 4th, Jerry? Is that a Thursday?
April 5th?
April 5th, okay.
Can
No,
we put it on for the
you're right.
29th? I don't know if I'm going to be here for the 5th.
For March 29th?
Yes.
That's the
I've
40.
got-
Can we come in at 6 or 5:30? I'll make myself available.
If you guys want to come in at 5:30, this is probably going to take more than a half hour.
Can we do 5:30 on the 29th?
It's up to the board.
Can everybody indulge me?
Can everyone make 5:30?
Because
Jerry?
I
Yeah.
might have a conflict the next
29th,
week
5:30?
night. You want to sit on this?
5:30? Okay, you want to make a...
Attorney Clower, you're available then?
Is it now?
I will move that we continue this hearing, application 518, to March 29th, 2018, at 5:30 PM here in Town Hall.
Second it.
Okay, motion was made by Kim, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we do more of those?
No. It's tough to get here that early. It really is.
Question from the audience.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can submit something to the file, or speak at the next hearing. But
You can
it's
send me,
I'll
you can
just-
send me an email
Yeah.
requesting information. I'll forward it to Attorney Clower.
I'll just say it's customary to let the applicant speak, kind of last, rebut, if you will.
So there'll be another meeting.
There will be another meeting.
All right.
Thanks.
That brings us to our open meeting items. Number one is minutes from February 8th and February 15th.
I'm here who needs to abstain.
Okay.
Make it easier for you guys.
Oh, thank you.
We'll start with February 8th. Has anyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Everyone's all set with them?
Who needs to abstain?
I'll let you know, Jerry. So,
Okay.
February 8th, it's Ken and Paul. And obviously Ken's not here.
Okay.
I will abstain.
Okay.
Good for you.
I'll move that we approve the meeting minutes for February 8th, 2018.
Seconded.
Move to approve February 8th minutes by Kim, second by Jerry. All those in favor?
Aye.
With one abstention. February 15th, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm abstaining from these, so make your motion.
Would anyone else like to make the motion to approve February 15th minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve February 15th minutes.
Second.
Motion was made by Ed, second by, I'm sorry, was that Paul?
Paul, yeah.
Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I abstain.
And Kim abstains. Board Administrative Review to extend special permit for garage at 15 Tower House Road, Burtwell.
The Burtwells contacted me. Their special permit is almost up, and they would like to extend it for 1 year. It's for a garage. I believe it's attached, excuse me, sorry. I read this and now I can't remember. Go figure. To construct an attached one-car garage to the single-family dwelling.
I will move that we extend for a year.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Kim, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Procedural rules and policies.
I think we'll discuss those at the
So far,
workshop.
I've only received one recommendation or request to discuss certain things. So if people will send more to me, I will send that out about 2 weeks in advance.
We will, and that's,
I have stuff on my
that's a nice segue for board discussion update. We do have that workshop on March 24th, so we will be discussing that for the first portion of the
And I
workshop.
explained, I believe, did I let everybody know that Paul Haverty will be in attendance to discuss 40B?
Oh, good. Any further update on the accessory apartment committee
sorry?
meeting? Any further update on the accessory?
We had our first meeting.
Oh, I've heard about the first meeting. Well,
Yeah.
you know.
Bob is a designee of the board, and then the department heads were requested to attend. Of course, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. But I did, after the morning, Bob can go over it briefly.
Yeah, so
I
we-
did send out information the next day because people weren't aware of the previous bylaw who were on this committee.
Oh, to the committee, right.
So I sent it out strictly to the committee because they needed to know what the previous bylaw was for the accessory apartment, what the conversion bylaw is, and then I would like to get together information that we did on the
Lots of-
town meeting for lot size, showing the photos and everything, because that's going to be discussed as well. And I think that was an important thing, and I did bring that up at that meeting, how the board felt we needed lot sizes. So, Bob?
And the health department's also going to, they're discussing what their issues are going to be with septics.
Thank you.
Okay.
And it ties into wastewater because
Mhm.
I believe Virginia Valiela and her group is going to put in a bylaw to include the other 4 watershed areas as coastal ponds, so a lot more properties are going to be impacted by the changes coming up,
All right.
if they agree on any bylaw change.
Any future agenda items? Seeing none, we are done for tonight.
What are we cooking?
It's a wrap.